Begin recording. Okay.
Okay. Are you guys all recording?
Yes.
Okay. So hello everyone. Let's start over.
Okay.
Stop recording. Pause.
I hit my instrument.
Okay. Welcome everybody. I think this has been a very long-awaited video that we had to do many months ago. I would say maybe in November, but we never got around to sit and do this video. I think this was long due. Probably, what Aditya was mentioning when we had this chat before we started recording. So he was saying that there must have been an invisible influence of Shani on this nakshatra that we are doing today, which is Swati nakshatra. And we're doing this video for KRSchannel. And before we begin this discussion on Swati nakshatra, I would like to welcome Eve ji to start with a prayer to Saraswati.
Thank you, Dr. Arjun Paiji, and I'm so honored to be here after a long break. So let's start by honoring Devi Saraswati, and it's going to become apparent why honoring her for this nakshatra is quite relevant. Okay, so Om Ganganapate Namaha, Om Aim Saraswati Namaha, Om Bhaktevye Cha Vidmahi, Varenchi Patni Cha Dhimahi, Tano Vani Prachodayat. So just quickly, I'd like to share just a few things on Swati before the three of you dig into all these amazing details that you always do. But immediately when we think of the nakshatra Swati, we think of the god Vayu, right? The Rig Vedic god, actually, Vayu, who is one of the Lokapalas, or the guardians of the directions, northwest direction. And many of us don't know because we don't investigate. We just get caught up in this predictive element of astrology, and we don't investigate the deeper book of life that is related to that, okay? And even when we think of Saraswati, we're thinking of, oh, this image of a goddess with a veena, and we're not thinking of the very voice that is issuing from our mouth, the creative vibration, the creative principle that is allowing us all to connect. We don't think of the deeper forces that are at work. We're stuck in this almost imagery of that religion has handed to us, that books have handed to us, instead of discovering our own creative intelligence with that. Now, with that said, books can be a very good reference because they some of them sprang from the original creative intelligence of a person with deep insight. Let's say some of the Puranas, for instance. In the end, we have to come and find our own voice in that, which I'm speaking of this because we're talking about Swati, the independent star. And we're also talking about the unique breath. You think of Jyotish. What is the imprint of the birth chart? When does it start? The moment of birth is the first independent breath. Okay, so Vayu is the god of the winds, the god of pranas, the airs. And you think of, Ayurvedic medicine, we have the 5 Vayus that move things through the body. It's all about movement, breath, transport, also inspiration, pollination. Okay, now there is something called the Vayu Puran, which some of you may know. And I just wanted to bring that forward just for food for thought. My favorite thing is to inspire a student's own intelligence, not to give them my understanding, but to inspire their creator within that perceives the universe. Because all of us, in some way, through our eyes, we are Brahma. We are perceiving the creation that is issued forth from within. And your own creative voice is so important. So when I say this, please do your own investigation always. No matter what you hear from us here today, don't settle that one thing is the way it is, or just always do your own independent study into these things. So with that said, the Vayu Puran is very interesting because any of you who have taken the time to read it one of the things you're going to immediately notice is that it's constantly referring to the lineage of the earth, the lineage of the solar and lunar dynasties. Also the nature of the earth, even the lineage of the rivers and the mountains. It tells you the stories of the birth of this mountain, the birth of this river, the lineage that it comes from. It talks about all the different geography spanning the entire earth and even beyond the earth. And that's just one part of it. There's a Purva Bhaga and an Uttara Bhaga. So there's two sections, right? And in one of those, there's two unique chapters dedicated to a subject that you won't find in other Purans. Okay, now we know that Vayu, if you study, is the head of the celestial musicians. And here's where Saraswati comes in. You know, breath, which is the original creative force that allows life to exist, and vibration, right? Well, in the Vayu Puran, we have two unique chapters dedicated to alankaras, or alankaras, which are the forming notes of music. So we have this dedication, this very unique thing in a Puran dedicated to music itself and the divinity of each separate note, each separate sound. Okay? So when you think of independence, when you think of the Vayus, when you think of the movement of the Pran, it's all vibration. Everything goes back to vibration. And music moves us. If you think of one singular moving thing in this universe, when we hear music that is pleasing to our own rhythm and our own vibration, there's something that happens within us that actually can't put into words. And so I feel that Swati Nakshatra becomes, I think we need to pay attention to this little detail, that the inspiration pouring out of this nakshatra is very unique. And I would say in some way it supports all of life. Even the Vayu Puran is about life. It's about the way society is ran. It's about the lineage of nature, the lineage of humans. It's about life as a whole. And so wherever breath resides, and each thing has its own breath, right? It has its own way of breathing. Even the stone, in some way, has its own consciousness and its own relationship to oxygen and to the air. And so this is a very unique nakshatra. I would say that would be one of the words that would define it. Independent, meaning unique. It has its own identity. So I would love to pass off the torch to whoever would like to speak. Specifically, Dr. Arjun Paiji, I think you're going to share, but I just wanted to start by honoring some of the unique qualities that we might not think of related to this nakshatra.
That's beautiful, Evji. You mentioned about some of the very unique ones that even I have not heard about. So that's great that you have spoken about them. But I want to talk about a couple of small things about Swati. Especially, I want to talk about Swati being called as Nestya as well. That's the name, the old ancient appellation of this nakshatra was called as Nistya. Now, Swati, if you look, is also said to be having only one star, and the ancients have said it was Kumkum Varna. Kumkum means, you see the red color, that's sort of a Kumkum, yeah. Kumkum Varna, that's what is referred. And the name was called as Nistya. Nistya means like an outcast. And those times Nistyas also meant like a Chandala, not in literal sense, but they meant to say that this star was way off the ecliptic. I think that's what maybe Aditya can also vouch for. It doesn't fall very close, it falls away. And that is, this star is called as Arcturus, or how do you pronounce it? Alpha Bootis, or Alpha Boot? How do you pronounce it?
It's Alpha Bootis or Arcturus. Yeah.
Arcturus. Now,
I will talk about that. I'm showing the ecliptic and also.
Yeah. And this name, Swati, was also called as Kharga. Kharga means a a sword, right? And maybe that is where the symbolism of this nakshatra comes from, where we say it is like a shoot of a plant or a blade of grass which is swaying in the wind. That was the thing. But what our ancients believed in when they looked at this Tara, okay, Nistya Tara, they said this Tara was important because it removed the darkness or the Tama element. And if you look that this nakshatra also falls, maybe when Aditya speaks about the astronomical aspects, maybe he can touch upon that. It said that, it falls in Tula Rashi or Libra, and it said Tulasya as well. Okay, what is Tulasya? Tulasya means it is called as, in the ancient times, we call this as Saumya Kilaka. Saumya Kilaka means Beta Libra, and it lies at the distance east of this star. And it forms a sort of a triangle, and Nistya is situated at the top of this triangle, of this Tulasya. And Saumya means soft. Kilaka means the key which can open up something. So this was also called, Tulasya was also called as Yamya Kilaka, which means there's something very hidden about the past life influences, because you see even Chitra coming here, which is associated with Chitragupta. And you can see there's some sort of a balance here. That's the balance we say with Tula. And Swati, when you say Khadga it was a reference to the swaying blade of grass. And one of the associations I've seen with this grass is also with Kusha grass, or it's also called as Darba grass. And the Darba grass it's nothing but it's a metaphysical insulator from electromagnetic field and the negative ions. And it also was used in the ancient times to keep away the evil forces, and especially the spirits as well. And in those times, many people used to also meditate on the Darba grass. It's also a common belief that Gautam Buddha was also sitting on Darba or Kusha grass, and he meditated when he got his enlightenment. And when you see most of the rituals, you see Darba grass is used to fortify and purify the fire altar before every fire ritual. And the Yajamana is a performer of the Yagna who gets the merit of all the Yagna. He usually wears a ring of this Kusha grass, and it's called as Pavitra. Pavitra means pure. So that is to purify himself and to protect himself from any forces or evil spirits or negative influences around the Yagna Kunda or the fire altar. And this Darba or Kusha was supposed to be called as the king of the grass. And it has it is believed to have descended from the Devalok. There are many mythological stories associated with this. One of the stories of the origin of the Darba grass, they say, is when Garuda was also called as Vainateya. Okay, he was carrying the nectar or the Amruta from the Devalok, and he was actually running away from the Asuras who were chasing behind him. And Vishnu had said, please take this to a safe place. And when he was carrying this, and basically he was also carrying this to relieve his mother from slavery, because his mother was in slavery where she was tricked and manipulated into slavery. And this kalash or this pot that she was carrying, a small quantity of that spilled and fell on a kusha, and the kusha became sanctified. And his cousins, who had actually made his mother a slave, Vinata, I guess that's what his mother's name was. His cousins were the Nagas. And the Nagas tried to taste this with their tongue, and their tongue got split. And if you go to a kusha grass and you touch it, it can actually cut yourself as well. You can cut yourself. So sharp is the blade of kusha. And because Amrit had fallen onto the kusha became very sacred. And I found that, when you do meditation sitting on the kusha grass, most of your sadhana and the influence of the sadhana doesn't get grounded. You bring a lot of very positive vibrations. So this is again I see with what Swati is. Swati means being independent, okay, being dispersed, okay. It's about being spread. But when you sit on a kusha, you're actually bringing more focus. You're bringing in more, focus on what you want to do. So it enhances, it brings form, it brings and enhances the ability to bring greater force in life. And that is the force that even Eve G was mentioning about Vayu and the Prana Vayu. It's a life-giving breath. And it's surprising that you see right opposite to Swati Nakshatra is Bharani Nakshatra, and that's associated with Yama, or the womb of the mother. Okay, when the umbilical cord of the womb or the mother's umbilical cord is cut, Apa Bharani or Apa Sarani. Sarani means the path of the river or the path of the water. So whatever direction in which the water flows from the umbilical cord, and then you are born. And when you are born, you take the first prana vayu. That's when you become independent. Till then, you are dependent on your mother. Okay, so Swati is something which makes you independent, and that's the first breath, the prana vayu, which comes, which makes you independent. And that is why this nakshatra was called as Swati. Swa means self-going. Okay, and it was also called as Suati, which means very good.
Dr. Paiji,
So these, yeah.
may I add one point?
Sure.
Because I think
Sure,
it's relevant.
sure, go ahead.
You had also
Yes.
mentioned Shani Dev at the beginning, so I wanted to kind of tie that in, because people learning might not understand why you mentioned Shani.
Yeah.
Because I think some of the classical acceptance when you're using sidereal astrology is that Shani would be exalted in Vishaka, which is actually probably not correct. And I just wanted to mention, we don't know, but I just wanted to open up the curiosity of people at this juncture when it comes to exaltation and debilitation, and whether it is actually Rashi or Nakshatra based. And I know there's a lot of people that will just dismiss me immediately, and that's okay. I'm presenting this for consideration, because until you research, until you actually investigate, you don't know, right? So if you take the gods of the nakshatras, I mean, let's use Guru, let's use Jupiter, for example. So exalted in Pushya, Brahaspati, Vachaspati, Vaksiddhi, right? All those things connected. Pushya is the worshiper, and when you go to his debilitation point, you just get Uttarashara, which in many old books is referred to as the star of doubt, where Jupiter would naturally feel unlike himself, right? Because he's a faith-based planet. In some way, even though he has discernment, he is a faith-based planet. So you look at this with Shani, and speaking of Swati, which is the 20-degree sidereal mark, right? But I think just throw out Rashis altogether and just look at the stars opposing each other. And let's have Bharani and Swati. So we have the debilitation point in Bharani. Okay, and now everyone that's learning astrology, what is one of the major karakatwas of Shani? The major indicators of Saturn, what is one of the things that he is associated with? Longevity. He is the karaka of longevity. Okay?
Kal,
And like,
can we say Kal?
huh?
It's a Karak of Kal, correct?
Yeah, of time. Yes, of time, but he is given to longevity. You determine longevity in many ways by the 8th house, also legacy, right? And Shani. So when you look at this, you see Bharani, Uppa Bharani, to take life away. The reincarnation process, that's why the womb is connected here, because that's death and then the confinement, the constraint within the womb, right? That's all opposite of what Shani is actually trying to do. Believe it or not, even though everyone talks about Shani being restrictive, I don't think that's become very common language without people understanding what they mean, that Shani restricts. We just go on repeating like a parrot, and we forget to actually try to understand what this stuff means. And so when I hear restriction with Shani, I'm always questioning the person, what do you mean? because I don't know if that's actually true. They're not going deeper what Shani's agenda actually is. So you've got Bharani, where he would naturally be in debilitation, because that's the taking away of the longevity. So Swati being the pranas, and you think of all the yoga practices, the austere yogic practices to increase longevity, like Kriya Yoga, is through the breath, right? They say you increase your life by controlling your breath. So Shani would naturally thrive in this, and he's also Vata. His constitution's Vata, right? His constitution is of air. Swati is the most air, even though the constitution given to Swati in medical astrology is not Vata. But the star itself is the source of Pran. It's the source of the Vayu. It's Vayu. It is Vayu, the abode of Vayu. So Shani Dev does very well here because he also gets movement. Now, another thing about Shani is that he's considered the original rebellious planet. All you've got to do is look back in these old texts, the people that actually did the research, the people that actually spent their lives doing this. One of the key words with Shani is rebellion. He goes against society. He doesn't go to, he is the planet of the people. He is democratic. He's not monarch. He doesn't believe in monarchy, right? The opposite of Leo, his son, his father, right? The son's quality, monarchy, big government, all those things. He's different. He's for the masses, but because of that, he's the revolutionary and the rebel. And this often gets put as Rahu. This often gets associated with Rahu, but through this, we can actually understand why Rahu and Shani Dev are so connected. Everyone says that Rahu behaves like Shani. Rahu doesn't restrict. So we need to rethink these things and not just blindly repeat them and actually do our own investigation. But I would love everyone that's listening to this video to actually start taking exaltation and debilitation and looking at the yogtaras, and looking at the star systems. When a planet is aligned with that, the god, I think I should say it simpler. Look at the god of the nakshatra. And it will tell you every reason why a planet is exalted or debilitated in that place. That is my personal persuasion. That's what I am inclined to feel after years of research and years of doing charts and failure with using Rashi exaltation and debilitation no matter how. And people telling me that an exalted planet is going to be fantastic or whatever, or debilitated is going to be terrible, and having the opposite experience. But when you look at the yogtaras and the actual nakshatras, you're going to get a lot more answers. So really, when you think of Swati, here's another interesting point before I hand the torch back over, is that in, goodness, what Quran is this? One of these books I'm reading, one of the many I'm reading at one time, but one of the Qurans, I'm so sorry, it's slipping my mind. And I had presented this in our class together. But Shani was said to be born when the star Swati, okay, they say it. They say Yogdara. They don't say Nakshatra. They don't say anything. They say the star Swati was rising in the east, and the moon was in waning Revati Nakshatra, waning cycle. Okay, so naturally, because of the birth of Shani, then Revati and Swati may have some natural slight influence of qualities of Shani. And he gets the worst reputation, but look at the nakshatras that he's at the heart of, according to Vimshotri Dasha. They're all related to high devotion. All of them are related in some way to this high internal process of true devotion. So I just wanted to present that while we were on that subject. Thank you, Dr. Price.
No, this is beautiful. Yeah, very, very important point.
It was.
Yeah, Aditya, please go ahead. Yeah.
I also didn't have this point in astronomy part, but you have said about the connection of Revati and Swati. You see, Swati, as you said, is connected to Saraswati Puja, Saraswati and goddess Saraswati. On a Vasant Panchami day, when when we worship Saraswati, goddess Saraswati, that day is a Revati Nakshatra day. The moon is Revati. So you can see Saraswati Puja on a Vasant Panchami connected to Revati, and also goddess Saraswati connected to Swati, the Swati Revati connection. You can see there.
Adityaji, that's so profound, because in some of the older references, do you know who Brahma was represented by out of the grahas?
No.
Shani.
Oh, okay.
Shani. Okay.
Shani was the Karga. Kal was actually Brahma,
Yeah.
not Shiva. In the old, because he was the first issuing forth of time. With creation starts that time. So Shani used to be the indicator of Brahma, and then his worship slowly faded. You know, Brahma, because of all these stories we hear, but I'm sure there's a bigger reason. I have a feeling that Brahma and Saraswati is something more possibly of a different yuga. I don't know if we understand the pure, because they say in all of her stotrams and all of her, anything you read about Saraswati, she's the most pure. Out of all the Shaktis, they say she's the most pure, innocent, and independent. They call her independent. She doesn't allow Brahma to mate with her. She doesn't allow him to, because knowledge is not supposed to be owned. Right?
Yeah.
Gyan or vibration should not be possessed by one being. Even the creator themselves should not own its creation. So that's actually, there's a very powerful thing here that you're saying about the Saraswati Puja. And this is why I ask everyone to go deeper.
It was amazing because
things like a parrot.
when you started about Saraswati Puja, I was thinking, okay, because we started the session with the dedication to Saraswati. So I was thinking that definitely something connection has to be done for Swati and Saraswati. Is there any astronomical connection? Then I thought about this festival of Vasant Panchami, and then it comes in Revati. I said, no, this is not coming in Swati. But then I also worked on, I was just looking on the internet, because we do also Saraswati Puja on a Navaratri time.
Yes, of course.
But then it comes in the nakshatra of around, I think, Mula or Purvashada, something like that. It's not Swati. I said, that's no connection I'm seeing. But then you told this story, then I was able to connect it. It just came out and said, that's the connection.
And our modern calendar, even the Hindu calendar at this point has been adjusted to accommodate modern society and the business transactions that we do. We live in a business-oriented society. So even the calendar, which Dr. Paiji and I will be discussing in Sedona, even the calendar has been tweaked and messed with in order to accommodate the steady flowing of society. Instead of us going by a natural clock and honoring our surroundings, we've tried to control time. Our society is so controlling. Our language, our everything. So when you look at this, there's probably a reason why you had to make that, it was hard to make that connection, because they probably adjusted it to make it convenient. Yeah.
Maybe, but it came out beautifully. So
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you, Adityaji.
And it's a very good point both of you mentioned, which I am connecting to something else as well. Because Swati is also said to be in certain books I've seen, certain translations, they say it is the priest. And the priest is not the normal priest that you see. That's where I see the influence that, Eve G was mentioning about Shani. Is a priest who is learned and who's a master of theology. And that is Shani. Shani was a master of theology. When I say he's the study of nature, of God and religious beliefs. How many of you really think of Shani as somebody who's a master of theology?
That's it. He is. He's a studier of history.
History.
Of preserving history. What do you call them? The agamas? Agamas?
Yeah, agamas.
Yes, they relate him to preserving that kind of. Absolutely. Shani is, Swati, it's funny you say this, very common for philosophers. A lot of people that have degrees in philosophy.
Theologists, philosophers, because I'll tell you why this thing is important. What is important for being devotional or being, you need to actually understand the whole purpose of Swati. Swati means Swa. Swa means self. Swa means also, it can be said, it is something reference to the soul or to your ego. And what is that ego? is it's only if you see Brahma, as you mentioned, and Saraswati. Saraswati is all about self-reliance. She's unwilling to show resistance, but she's willing to change. But she's self-reliant. And what is Kal, or what is Brahma? He is personal ego.
Yes.
So it's a clash between self-reliance and personal ego. Personal ego is chasing self-reliance. Self-reliance is running away. So this is all about Swati. Is when I say personal ego, ego is nothing but you are edging out God. Ego. Edging God out. EGO. So when you think you are all by yourself and you think you are God, that's when you think, that's when you have an ego. I think that is something that is very flexible with this nakshatra, because one is they're wanting to go with the flow and the prana, and also look at the influence of Shani on Swati nakshatra, because you mentioned about the Yogatara. Shani is not about just breathing. Shani is about the deep breath and the slow movement of the breath. The prana has to flow. That is why yogic practices, refinement, and bringing in rhythm.
Yes.
I think that is the key for this nakshatra. And let me tell you why the blade of grass is associated. There was a story somebody told me about Swati. There was this story, it's a folklore. They say a tree was uprooted, a huge, big tree was uprooted and was carried in the river. And as the big tree, which had a lot of arrogance and ego, that I am so mighty, nobody can actually do anything to me. It was really uprooted, and the river was taking it. And when it was taking it, it found these small blades of grass still there. And the tree says, how are you people surviving here? I'm so mighty and so big. I have been uprooted. Why you haven't been uprooted? That's when the grass says, when the river flows, we just bend ourselves flexibly to the flow of the water. We don't resist it. And that is what Swati is all about, is being flexible, is bowing down. Knowledge, Saraswati, you need to bow down to the knowledge. Humility.
Dr. Paiti, this brings me to an interesting point, because I don't know if anyone here has heard Bruce Lee speak. He's got Swati in his horoscope quite prominently.
Right.
And no one knows how philosophical he was. He was interested in, he would study Taoism, everything related to his Gung Fu style. He knew everything about its history, he was just almost, when I would hear him interviewed, when I was doing research on his chart at one point, and I was listening to his interviews, and he was so much deeper than the person interviewing him. I don't feel like they even knew what to do with him. And but he had all of this information, so philosophical. But one thing he's very famous for saying is to become like water. Because water, when you throw a brick into water, it gives and absorbs the shock, right? If you're like a stone wall, you get hurt, right? Like the impact, you can't receive the impact. So he would always say to be like water. And this is that profound knowledge. If someone handles Swati Nakshatra this way, if they don't get too I would say, intoxicated with their own individuality. Because you'll see a lot of entrepreneurs, you'll see a lot of people who are, intoxicated to a degree with their independence, right? And that's okay, but if they don't get too much in their head about it, and they allow themselves to exist for humanity, right? Because Shani is of the people. He's never singular like the sun. Sun is extremely singular. I am. The sun says I am. But Shani is actually for the many, the shadow, right? The multitude. So as long as Swati stays in this kind of fluidity, like George Harrison is another famous Swati. And he was the most philosophical out of all of the Beatles. And he was probably, in a way, the most, you would call, diverse musician. Like, he picked up Eastern instruments. He picked up, he just went around and he would pick up everything, and he could do everything. But he also had this nature where he was interested in investigating things deeper than just himself. And he wrote the song, I, Me, Mine. And that song, what it says is all through the day, all through the night, I me mine, I me mine, I me mine. You know, in other words, he's acknowledging that we never stop thinking about ourselves, even when we cry, even when we're wallowing in self-pity, even when we're celebrating happiness, it's all in some degree selfish. And so Shani, in some way, the higher Karaka of Shani representing some kind of selfless service and seva, because Shani is also the Karaka of seva, of service. He is the servant. So here we look at that higher quality of transcending the personal identity and belonging to the masses. Right? That's what philosophy is supposed to do. It's supposed to connect the masses with their own inner knowledge. It's not supposed to become religion. What we've got right now is a mess. So yeah, Dr.
There's a lot of, I think there's a lot of dogma attached to, philosophy these days, and that is what is taking up. There's another beautiful story that I want to say, and then, Dr. Togi and Dr. Panoli, I would want them to speak because we have been doing a lot of talking. Right. But this is a beautiful story. I'll show you a connection which maybe people have not talked about, this connection, and I'll show you this connection with Ceylon or Sri Lanka with this nakshatra. So this mythology, this legend goes that Narada, sage Narada, wanted Vayu. He wanted to teach Vayu a lesson because Vayu was very proud about himself. So he said, Vayu, I want you to go to Mount Meru and blow the top of Mount Meru. So Vayu said, oh, that's easy for me. Okay. But then Vishnu was there. He overheard this. He said, because we need to actually, because he's too egoistic. It's about individuality. Vayu is about I, me, myself. I'm independent. I'm self-reliant. I can do anything. So Vishnu sends his Garuda to go and block the wind stand in front of Mount Meru. So for one long year, Vayu starts blowing his wind, storms, hurricanes, anything. But Garuda is standing there. What is Garuda? Garuda means winds of speech and winds of change. He can actually change everything. So he stood there, and when he realized that, Vayu was tired, that's when Vishnu said, okay, now you can come off. Okay. So he has realized what he was doing because he stood as a shield around the mountain. And then Vishnu goes up to him, to Vayu, and said, now blow on Mount Meru. And when he blew this time with all his might, the top of Mount Meru went and formed the island of Ceylon, or today what we call as Sri Lanka. That is why Lanka was a state. Lanka means it was connected to Uttarashada. Lanka means the undefeated, or the invincible land. The only person who has been victorious on that land was Shri, which is Vishnu himself. That is why it was called as Sri Lanka, because Lanka was, a fortress which was created by Kubera later on, built by Kubera, and later on his half-brother Ravana took over Lanka, the island of Ceylon. So when you show resistance in this nakshatra, then you will have, issues. So I think the best thing for the Swati natives is to let go of this arrogance, let go of ahankara, let go of you thinking that I can be more powerful than you. And then Vayu is taught this lesson.
Dr. Paiji, just one more thing. I just see everything.
Yeah, I'll just quickly, you can just go on. I'll just come in one.
Your door, yes, please.
Yeah, somebody.
But what Dr. Paiji was just saying about knowing your limits. Basically, that's a story of knowing your limits, and that could be another reason why Shani would do so well here. Why Shani would be exalted, because Shani shows us our limits. He shows us where our rights end and another person's rights begin. He shows us the consequences of actions. He shows us the metered rhythm, the tolerance, the patience, all of those things that we need to develop in order to be, I would say, even a human being. I think most of us are kind of functioning from even like a response of survival and all of these things. We have all of these things going on inside of us all the time. We don't slow down to actually realize where our limits are and where another person's boundary begins. So this great respect, I would say a word respect comes to me like when I think when Swati is out of control and lacking respect, because you got to remember, Bhimasen or Bhim was born under this nakshatra, and so was Hanumanji. And these were two very powerful people who had to be taught their limits, especially Hanumanji, right? He was going to swallow the sun. He was testing the limit of his power, right? And he had to be reminded. He had to be reminded to put that power in for the good of the people, not for individual attainment. It's always for the good of the masses, through devotion. This is Shani. Shani has a lot to do with devotion. I think we often forget that.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely.
So
and you can see,
right?
Yeah.
Devotion,
and you see, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful because if you see, both, as you mentioned, Bhim and Hanuman, both are associated with Swati. And what you see with this unique association is, first, Hanumanji was thought about humility because he was running havoc. And then, he was actually cursed by the saints or rishis, saying that until, Sri Ram comes into your life, you will not realize your true potential, or many of the things will be hidden within you, right? And then you can see later on, Hanuman, there is also a story where Hanuman teaches humility to Bhim as well. He's once lying with the tail, and he says, "I'm not going to move from here." It was like an old monkey who's lying there. And Bhim says, you know who you are? You have to move from here. I'm Bhim. He said, "Okay, move my tail. I'm very old, I can't move." And Bhim tries to lift that tail, he couldn't do it. That's when he realized, because Bhim means one who has the power of 100 elephants. So one teaching another. So I think a Swati native who has actually gone through this process can teach other people how to be, humble. It's like Hanuman teaching his own, because Bhim also is Vayuputra, isn't it? It's believed.
Beautiful.
So anyway, I think this is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
And
Dr.
I know when... Yeah,
let
please,
me just add
Sanket.
on to the Hanuman story. I think one of the things which you taught in the Swati and Hanuman was that Hanuman will always forget his powers until he was reminded of it. And and you did mention until he meets Sri Ram, and maybe when I go on to later, it's a beautiful point about Sri Ram. But the point which I wanted to mention here was until he was reminded of it. Swati natives tend to forget their own greatness. So and so it said that Hanuman reached the shores of Lanka, and then he felt dejected. He was like, only place left to search for Sita was Lanka. No, shores of India, and the only place left to search for Sita was Lanka, and he felt dejected, knowing not what to do. And then the Jambavan, who was a beer-headed being, who reminded Hanuman, okay, Hanuman, since you are young, when you're young, you jumped up to the sky thinking it was an apple, and then you were basically cursed by the rishis, for causing havoc in the world. And the only way out rishis gave you was literally to to until you are reminded of your gifts by someone else, right? So, and that's what I'm doing to you right now. So if you are young, if you jumped up to the sky thinking sky was an apple, why are you making a big deal about Lanka? So that was basically what Jambavan told to him. And then Hanuman actually jumped, but he reminded of his powers, and he got jumped. But he jumped to, and then that's a whole different episode of Ramayana. But one important point here is that which you actually taught in the class was that these natives need a mentor, someone who is just reminding them of their own potential, someone who is actually reminding them of their own gifts, and the mentor may be someone very ordinary, someone like Jambavan, like you don't even know who Jambavan is, but that mentor,
Vanaras. He was a priest of Vanaras, I believe. So
right. Yeah.
it was through Vak. It was through speech, right? That Hanuman is reminded.
Right.
This
exactly.
is a beautiful point, Santikji.
Yeah. There are other beauties with Jambavan, but maybe I'll show it later. The key point here is that Swati natives might need a mentor who is just constantly reminding them. Could be like easily, could be easily someone who people won't even give a second to, like Jambavan. But they really would use a mentor. So that's one thing I just want to add, Dr. Pai, since you just shared that Hanuman story.
So this is something which is very, very key. And there's another point I wanted to make, just to add to what Santipji has beautifully mentioned about Jambuvan, is have you actually seen the seed which has, a little bit of fluff and it just, flies around and the seed spreads? What is this called?
The
It
poppy,
has,
the poppy seed.
yeah, like it has feathers.
We have a name for them here in the U.S. and I can't remember what we call them. But yeah, they're bald and they just
Yeah.
I've
Wind,
always
yeah.
called Swati and Nakshatra pollination.
Pollination, exactly.
And
This
that
is what
word with this nakshatra because inspiration pollinates.
pollinates.
Yes.
And this is something which gave me the idea, like the seeds which scatter in the wind, and that seems to indicate that for Swati natives, they have the ability to grow beyond from where they actually come from, which means they have to spread, they have to go to other lands. That's when, Hanuman didn't realize what his potential was. But when he went to Lanka, which was away from his land, Kishkinda, that's when he could even bring Lanka to, Mula,
How profound.
He burned down Lanka.
How
He
profound.
burned Lanka. So people of Swati natives, when they scatter to another country, when they go to another place, that's when they really blossom. That's when they bring the biggest potential. And like, Santipji mentioned, they need to find a mentor somewhere there. You find a lot of people. And that's why I see Swati is also associated with the concept of martial arts as well. So when you think about martial arts, the thing of martial arts, as you mentioned, it's not about, blocking yourself like a boulder there. The idea is to move sideways and to be able to use the force of the attack and then to propel and make them go past. So you see judo. What is judo? Judo is the same thing. It's not about using your own force. It's the using the force that is threatening you to destroy you and to disbalance them. That is what you see with Swati. The natives who can maneuver very quickly is you don't go attacking, but you're defensive, but you just use the force of the energy. So Swati has to be understanding that whatever energies are flowing towards you, you should be able to maneuver it. You're not able to block it. It's like the wind, like what you mentioned about Bruce Lee. He said, be like water. Be fluid as water, so you can move and not be, and use that force to your advantage.
Beautiful, Dr. Arjun Paiji. Yes, I feel this is so wise for those of you out there that might be listening that have Swati Nakshatra, because this nakshatra really does excel when you learn these little secrets. So I think the force behind this nakshatra, the original force, the first starting point is so eccentric, independent, divided, scattered. People with this nakshatra often have their beginning is usually hard. They have a hard time. But as you've so beautifully illuminated in your classes, in some of your beautiful nakshatra classes that you offer us, how you'll see so many people who end up either publishing or starting a company or tech industries where they start off maybe small and all of a sudden it's this massive thing. And I think you gave the example of Linda Goodman, the original Sun Signs book, who makes millions off of astrology. She was one of the first. You were absolutely right about that, and the way that her fame spread and all those things. But before that, she was struggling. And I think for Swati, once they find their service and they become more available and more fluid, and honestly, they learn their limit. Just like Hanumanji, they learn their power, where their power is, and also where it's actually effective, so that they're not so scattered. Where their force is actually effective. As soon as they find that precision, then they really excel. And I'm sure all of you here who have seen Swati Nakshatra that way.
And another thing that you see the energy of the vowels associated with this will actually give you the clue. Ru, Re, what is the other one? And something Tha. Ru, Re, Tha, or something like that. I can't remember. I think it's Ru, Re, Ra, Tha, or something like that. So if you look at the names associated with these, you will see that they grow and they spread very widely across. For example, they say rotary, the word rotary. Okay. So this comes from this word. So you see, Rotary became such a big. There are so many organizations which came into existence, but Rotary spread across the world. So it's the root word that you can see sometimes can also help if you are, having this name and then you're having the organization set up. Because I won't be surprised if Rotary was actually inaugurated, or the first name which was honored, or maybe it was Swati Nakshatra, because it has some influence of Swati in it. And today you see Rotary is so widely spread, Rotary International, all over the world, doing seva, doing a lot of charitable work and a lot of humanitarian work.
Shani.
So I want people also, Shani, exactly, for the common man, all those things. So you can actually see that, the names also can indicate sometimes. And I've always mentioned this, Swati is one great nakshatra if you want to start your marketing campaigns, because you want them to spread, to go viral. Videos which are done on Swati nakshatra can sometimes go viral. Anyway, I think, we would want Dr. Togi and Dr. Kanoli, otherwise, we'll spend another few hours and we'll never be able to finish this. So Dr. Togi and Dr.
Bollywood movie.
Yeah, I know. This will be the next one, the Swati movie. So Dr. Togi, I think you can share some of your points.
There is a Kannada movie, correct? Swati movie, Dr. Pai.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I remember when I was very young.
Yeah, it's old. It's around 80s.
Was it a hit? Was it a super hit or something?
Yes, it was a very popular
movie. Very popular movie.
Guys, while Aditya Ji is setting up here, one of the Nakshatra yogas, I wanted to share this with everyone learning, because I have a feeling this is relevant to what Dr. Arjun Paiji just said about marketing. The Nakshatra yoga in the Purans for Swati says that the one who gives generously of their wealth on the day of Swati Nakshatra becomes known in all the worlds. That's the Nakshatra yoga.
It's fascinating, isn't it? It's a Chara Nakshatra.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful that if you give charity, your name spreads. Pragvamsha Shakti.
Yes, exactly. So beautiful. I just wanted to share that part.
Thank you.
Okay, so now coming to some astronomy, gross level, I think when you and EVG talk, it's all, I think, energy and all, I cannot see. Then I wanted to see some stars then. Now it's okay. So Swati Nakshatra, now, as we know, ecliptic have all those, right from the Aries till Pisces, and you can see the position of ecliptic here. This is the line drawn in the black color. And then the Swati is also called as Dr. Pai mentioned, it is the Bootis. So can you figure where is the Bootis constellation here? Can you see somewhere? Find out. It's like that children's quiz puzzle.
Yeah, it's on top of Virgo, right? Virgo's top of Virgo, below Draco.
Yes, somewhere here. Yes. So this is what I think we've been school, when we were child, we used to play the game, correct? Find a letter in this jumbled word and this one is to pick. Similarly, so this is where the Bootis constellation is, and you can see how far away it is. It's not how far away, but comparatively much farther than ecliptic, correct? We have all these Yogataras of all the constellations and zodiac on the ecliptic, but Bootis is somewhere here, far away from the ecliptic. So the first point to think about Swati is it's far away from the ecliptic. Then comes the question, okay, so this is what this constellation of Swati looks, Arcturus. This is our Virgo, and this is a Spica, which is Chitra star. If you just connect this forms a straight line, like you can see very just above the north of the Virgo constellation. Okay, and then Dr. Pai mentioned about Arcturus. Arcturus is nothing but the famous Yogatara of Swati Nakshatra, and it falls in the Bootis constellation, the prominent star. And the color of the stars is reddish orange. That's what Dr. Pai said, correct? Kumkuma Varna. So how is Kumkum color looks like? So it's the same color, reddish orange. So exactly because it's a K-type star which falls under this cooler star category, and it's a red color star. So the color exactly matches with the I don't know where you got the name, Dr. Pai, Kumkuma Varna, in which text it was. It was mentioned in some text.
Yeah, it was in some as in Hindu astronomical text that I found that it was called as Kumkum Varana.
Okay.
And there is another thing that I wanted to add with why this was, this is also connected to the red coral, because people have not understood. People think wearing a red coral, but red coral is not anything related to this. The ancients wanted to connect this with Arcturus or to this nakshatra is because red coral is one which grows, which spreads asexually. And, so that is why this association is self-perpetuation. Like the rishis and the sages also used to produce offsprings from their sweat. I was talking to Santip, recently. I said there are 4 categories of people how you can be born, on this planet. They're called as the first category is called as Pindaja, which means born from the womb. That's why we say Pindadan, or they're called as Jayayujas. Okay, that's the first category, being born from the womb. Then Swetajas. Swetajas means born from the sweat. Okay. Then we have Andajas, which means born from the egg. Right? And then Udbijas. Udbijas means born from the seed.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. So that is the association with the coral. It is not that you have to wear a coral, because I know, Evji, you can mention this again. I mean, it's...
You know me, I'm sitting cringing.
Yeah,
it's violent.
So please.
It's so violent. Please don't kill red coral. It's a living being, and it's absolute greed to kill it. So we're losing it at a frightening rate too. The coral reefs are disappearing because of human greed. So yes, absolutely, Dr. Arjun Paiji, thank you for saying that, because I panic inside when I hear a lot of these remedies they were okay in the old days because people weren't taking more than they needed. In the old days, people had boundaries, they had limits, they had a code of life. Right? They had ethics. So we didn't take more than we needed. If we went and hunted and shot a deer, like the Kshatriyas ate meat, so they would go hunt, they would take what they needed. They didn't kill the entire herd of deer. So what's happening right now with the coral reefs is exactly that. It's people just take and take and take and take until we don't have the beauty of that being anymore in the world. It's completely destroyed and annihilated. So please, there must be some other way around red coral. I would say to use the substitute, unless you already have it gifted to you or donated to you that's, used, right? Like it's handed down, but don't go and buy new red coral. Please.
It's interesting that you're bringing this point, Dr. Pai, about the red coral, and I remember about this Kumkuma Varna, and also the story of Hanuman. We put Kumkum on the Hanuman, like Hanuman is worshipped using Kumkuma, and there is also connection of, as I think you also mentioned, the connection of Hanuman with Swati Nakshatra, and now the Kumkuma Varna and the Kumkum and the Hanuman connection, we can see that. So I think when you put Kumkum on the Hanuman, you're reminding Hanuman about his powers, I guess. I don't know.
Exactly. Wow. And that's what is making you more independent and, self-reliant, and realizing your own potential by applying. Yeah. Right. And also what I feel is, this nakshatra is also connected to the snail. You know why? Because the snail can actually reproduce asexually as well. And it is like the shani, it's very slow. It has a protective shell around it.
Wow.
And usually you see the snails are alone. They are single. They can travel long distances. I mean, for them, long distances, like for us, it's a short distance. But they travel long distances very slowly. But they always go alone in their own direction, wherever they have to go.
So you say long distance, very slow.
Long distance, yes. There is a very strong connection with Swati and long distance travels. If the 3rd Lord, 9th Lord, 12th Lord is associated with Swati Nakshatra, you potentially would be on long distance, because this is a Chara Nakshatra. And this is a Nishtya. Nishtya means far away. So going far off lands.
I think it's interesting, Dr. Paiji, with Ashwini and Swati, because you look at, like, Ashwini is another one that's commonly with travel, but it's more associated with swift. Who is exalted in Ashwini? And it makes perfect sense. You don't even have, if you just think of the gods, who would be exalted there? The sun,
Chan.
you know, and that's
Beautiful. I think this,
swift travel, right?
Yeah.
Because the sun
And
is
then-
one without a minute. Like the sun is the quickest, the most impatient, the one that's there immediately, right? In some way. So I just think that's interesting, the point you're bringing forward with Swati and Shani's connection, because it is also travel and it is also movable, but there's that time element. Whereas Ashwins are time travelers, they actually skip it. They just go beyond it quickly, you know, and efficiently, right?
Do you think even oysters can be connected with Swati?
maybe, yes, I would think
I
so.
have
But we do not know.
I had something at the end connected with oysters.
Okay.
Interesting.
Oyster, beautiful, interesting. Yeah, please go ahead, Aditya.
Yes. So now you say, if we are saying far from ideal, correct? We have the Swati Nakshatra away from the ecliptic, and Dr. Pai mentioned about the individuals, the different going far, going to foreign land. So this is a question for, I think, for other three, for you all, Dr. Pai. Which planet will be the rulership of this nakshatra? So it's very, very common to think, correct? I think even questions for our audience too, probably. You can guess now. What nakshatra?
Saturn. Talking about Saturn so far.
We're talking about Saturn, but again, far from ideal and all those things, correct? There's also one more planet, correct? Very close similarity to Saturn.
So, Yuji, what is the rulership of Swati in Ashtotiri Dasha? I'm just curious.
Swati is, oh my goodness, is slipping me. I think it might be Mars. I'll check on that.
But the answer for Aditya's question is Rahu, right? Far from
Yes,
ideal.
he's asking about, for those watching, he's asking about Vimshotri Dasha.
Vimshotri Dasha, yes.
Yeah.
I'm asking for Vimshotri Dasha. So Rahu, correct? So this is our Rahu Maharaj here. It's our Rahu Maharaj. So probably we should. I think I'm giving bribe to Rahu Maharaj so that he's happy with me. Probably he doesn't give me more trouble. Okay, so there's also one more connection with Rahu and Vayu. Because Dr. Pai was mentioning about Vayu, the wind god, and then I saw that it's the god, the Vayu god, Vayu Dev is also associated with often Indra, and he won the race to get the first draught of Soma juice. Because what did Rahu also did? He was also running, and now we know the story of how this Varbhanu went off, and then he wanted the Soma juice, and his head got chopped off from Rahu and Ketu. And even Vayu could win the race because of his swift speed, because of his fast speed. What happened to Dr. Pai? We lost him, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he will join back. Yeah,
okay.
That's fine. Yeah.
So Vayu won the race after getting the ambrosia or the Soma juice. I think because of his swift speed, he could overpower the Lord Indra and came first to get the draught of Soma juice, just as like Rahu. So you can see the connection of Rahu and the wind god there. And Rahu is the planetary lord of Swati Nakshatra, and Vayu is again the deity of Swati Nakshatra. So there's a clear connection, the qualities of both Rahu and Vayu. So that was interesting to see. So I was just saying, Dr. Pai, how it is well connected, like Vayu won the race to get the Soma juice, and even Rahu did the same. And the connection sound also similar, Rahu, Vayu.
Yeah. And even we said, Ra, Ru, Re, Tha.
Correct.
These are the vowels which are connected to this sound signal.
Interesting connection between. I just read this. So how, if you see in the sky, how is Swati Nakshatra? And that's very interesting. Like if you say this is a Saptarishi Mandal, the Great Bear, or the Saptarishis, the 7 sages, and if you connect these 2 stars, you land to Leo. And then if you just extend, like this is how I find the locate Swati Nakshatra in the sky. Just extend this tail, these 3 stars here. This is your Vashishta and Arundhati in the tail region, middle tail region of the Ursa Major constellation. If you extend this tail, what happens is you first hit the star, bright star, which is your Swati, and then if you further go, you hit the another star, which is Paika. So that's why they say arc to Arcturus and spike to Spica. And it's very clear connection that the connection is very nice. Like, so there's a connection. It's like the tail of that three rishis is connected to the Arcturus, the Swati Nakshatra. So this tells me some story connection with the sage and Swati. And then I remember the story which Sandeep ji was mentioning about how Hanuman got cursed with this rishi, about losing his power and all. So some connection with sage and the Swati, and then what does sage also represent? Sage also represent the people who are learning and skill, knowledge and all those. So there comes a connection with Saraswati too, probably. So I was just thinking all those connection stories. It's interesting that how this tail connection is with the Swati Nakshatra. And this is clearly, this is how, that's why when I was teaching my Nakshatra course to learn about how to see or how to identify constellations in the night sky, I take first the known constellations. So definitely you can easy to locate Mrigashira Orion. It's easy to locate Ursa Major, Saptarishis. And with this known, I just do all those tricks to find different stars in the sky, so that I'm sure, okay, this is where it is. So that's again a nice connection with the Saptarishis and Arcturus. I don't know, we have to see some story with any connection with Swati or Vayudev with Saptarishis and all. So now coming to the actual star. Actual star is also 36.7, around 36 light years, and 36 is a number connected again with Rahu. Sandeep ji can say, I think, because in Rahu Yantra we also have this number 36, correct? When you add the column on the rows, and 36 is where they say that Shani matures at 36, but between 36 and 42 the Rahu starts maturing. Now some people, so there is like, so that's the age when I think the Shani is matured and then Rahu starts to mature. So again the connection with the Rahu. And Arcturus is a star where it has used up its core hydrogen and it is going to the next stage. So transformation, going to the next stage, going to the next stage. So there is also some transformation going to the next level. The mass is very similar to our mass of sun. Radius is much bigger than the sun. So it's like, again, expansion. What does wind do? Expands, correct? It moves. It really occupies larger space. So that's another connection with the radius. And luminosity is about much brighter, around 200 times more luminous. But the temperature is very low of the star. That's why it looks red. It's a little bit cooler than our sun.
Okay. So it's red because it's cooler.
It's cooler. Red stars are always cooler. Hot stars are always bluer and white.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
So it's 170 luminosity. Is it like, well, let's just take a pause here.
Yeah.
So I was just curious if 170 luminosity is actually connected with, what do you say? Is it bright star or something?
170 times luminous. Yes, bright star, definitely. Much brighter. It's 200 times more luminous than the sun. So definitely brighter. Definitely much brighter.
Did we just
So is it like,
ID?
yeah, I think he's trying to join again. So,
Okay.
you know, yeah. So yeah, Aditya, so I was just curious, like, in spite of it being dying, so is it still, is its brightness also kind of?
Yeah, what happens when the stars die? Whenever it uses its hydrogen, it then expands, and then probably it's that last phase. The last phase is much brighter phase. So that's where it's going now. So that's the phase of that star.
So when it's dying, it actually becomes more brighter.
Yes.
And it also actually expands also.
Expands, and but the temperature drops.
That's interesting.
Oh.
Okay.
What happens? I think
so
we are going into physics of the stars and all.
No, but it makes sense actually, you know, because if it's expand, you can connect all that with Rahu energy.
Yeah.
You know, it's like spreading all that kind of stuff. And then, you know, if it's cooler, then you can easily connect that with Shani's energy also, which is all about cool, you know, calmness, that kind of a thing. And now you are actually showing it as is being brighter also, which is also very interesting when you think about other planets. So which is, yeah, so it's very fascinating to see it's, you know, the physical correlation of the astrological themes there. Yeah, so
yeah, expansion, wind, Rahu. That's interesting to see all those connections.
Yeah, exactly.
Planet, right. Yeah, so with the planets and the planetary rulers. And this is some interesting facts about Arcturus, which I got this from that. They said that Arcturus is moving at a very high speed, about 122 kilometer per second relative to solar system. So moving at very high speed. So you can direct connection with the Vayu, moving at a speed of more than 100 kilometer per second. And then it was again, the other point was it was not moving with the general stream of stars in the flat disk of the Milky Way, but cutting perpendicular to the galactic disk. So it is not moving in the normal direction, but it's moving somewhere in a different direction. So it shows the energy of, again, Rahu. Rahu is what? Rahu is not in the, we know that it's not following the conventional path. It's always a non-conventional path. So it is moving at a very high speed. So that's the power of the wind, you can see. It's moving at a different part, cutting perpendicular to the galactic disk. So that's where the Rahu energy you can see. And it's moving with 52 other stars known as Arcturus streams. So it's moving in like a group. So again, the moving, dislocate, the movement, the wind power and all. And it is said that after a few million years, the star will be lost from our view. It will be too far. So it's all interesting to see about especially the movement. That was very interesting because I was connecting that with the theme of wind. And it's non-conventional movement too, because it's not along the disk, but it is perpendicular to the disk. So that's where Rahu. And it is having its own group, Arcturus stream. Like it's like 52 other stars. So that was interesting to see all that Rahu and Vayu energies. I think they have traced using, because at every year they can calculate the motion of the stars, like how much it has displayed from its initial position, and then they can trace out. So, see, nothing is fixed in. That's why nothing is fixed in. Even the Ursa Major or the Great Bear constellation, if you see around 100,000 years, the pattern was very different. And people have predicted now how that will look in the coming 100,000 years. Of course.
Yeah, it's very. So you're actually saying that it's kind of moving perpendicular to the stream. So
yes.
Like a trouble, literally.
Yeah. Because we know all the galactic disks are all moving around this, rotating around this black hole, around this. But right. This fellow is moving in a perpendicular, totally unconventional type.
So one thing I was curious about, you mentioned the Arcturus stream. What is that like? Is it like a stream of moving upwards?
It's like it is moving with a group, 52 other stars, correct? So it is like, that's what they call, I think, the stream of stars. Maybe because those stars are not at the same plane, they are different distances. So it looks like there's a stream, or there is a bunch of stars going in the same direction. So that's why they call it, because it's in the Arcturus constellation. So our Arcturus star is the brightest star in that. So that's why they call it Arcturus stream, maybe. So.
Okay, interesting.
So Rahu having his own herd of the Daityas within taking.
Yep.
Or maybe the Vanar Sena, Hanuman was leading one, but Hanuman went alone. But I think
it's very interesting. I think Dr. Pai was just mentioning, like, it's like a butcher. Swati is the caste is like a butcher, and
cutting perpendicular. Yes,
cutting perpendicular. The butcher is using the knife, literally to cut your chop off your head.
Correct. And the color is black, right?
Yeah, color is which is what Dr. Pai
was just saying that his screen blacked out.
His screen blacked out, and he was just asking maybe like blackout is associated with Swati too. So yeah, maybe power cut. I do think so, Dr. Pai. Power cut definitely makes sense with blackout for Swati. So maybe there's something there maybe. For sure.
I don't know, because I can't see anything now because my internet gave up, and now I can't see. It's completely blacked out. I can't see any of your things. No screen, nothing. It's just black. I'm just seeing black.
We also can't see anything, Doctor. Now you are there.
Oh, okay. So I was becoming Swati because the color black is associated with Swati. Right. So I was wondering if blackouts is also associated.
I think Rahu came and embraced you probably.
Yeah, I do believe blackout is associated with Swati for sure. You have like because Sun is actually debilitated here. We talked about Saturn, but Sun is considered to be debilitated here in Swati, and Sun is the original source of power. So wherever power is getting,
black absorbs all light.
Yeah, exactly. So blackout for sure, definitely. Great Doing that up, Dr. Pai, through your blackout.
Yeah, through my blackout, I realized maybe this is what, maybe that is how, Swati wants to teach us new things.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And I don't know, maybe Aditya and Santip have always seen they use a black background. Maybe there must be have something in Swati. I don't know.
I
Oh,
have
yeah,
a
for
planet.
sure.
I have a
Yeah.
planet in Swati.
My whole life is around you.
I have
All your presentations are black from behind. So
it somehow
there's a-
it appeases me, that color presentation. Correct. I used to do white, but now it's the black background. I don't know. Somehow it's much more. After I saw one or two talks, and it was like I got impressed with that. I don't know.
It's very interesting because in sidereal astrology, you have Tula Rashi or Libra that's also associated with the color black.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it is. That's the color that is associated with it. I also think of the scales of the economy, the scales of commerce. I know most people will talk about the scales of justice, which in some way you can see with Shani's influence, yes, of the people, those kinds of things. But I was just, I was thinking about the whole thing with the color black, even how it pervades, like you wear a suit. In professional settings, you wear a black suit. It's not common to wear white. The fashion industry, black is the chic color. And when you look at things that are very worldly, cosmopolitan, like things that are of the world, a lot of times the market is black. In some way, that's just a little fascinating point. The color black is an interesting thing to concentrate on. Why are they associated with the color that they're associated with? Like Purva Falguni, I know the procreative nakshatra is associated with a color that very much looks like skin, right? It's a peach color, like it very much looks like skin tone, which is a procreative nakshatra, right? Has everything to do with procreation. So I think these colors, I think Bharani, what is it, red and black? Some of them have two.
It's red, yeah, blackish red, yeah.
Some say,
Bharani is
it's blackish red, right? That's a very interesting thing to say. Why blackish red? Yeah, so anyway, I just wanted to draw attention to that point. It's fascinating.
Yeah. If G is wearing white, I think Dr. Pai has got a black thing. I don't know. I'm like brown. I'm perfectly Rahu. I'm
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, I have black hair, so yeah. I'm up to it now.
I have black.
Whose hair is more black? We have to check probably.
That's interesting. The pupils are black.
Right.
What do? We receive light into them. They absorb light, and light then reflects out based on the mechanics of the eye. So you can find all these little things, which that's interesting, right? Absorbing the light of the sun, even the sun being debilitated, all the light being absorbed and being scattered, instead of being, the sun likes focus. So that's just fascinating. Yeah.
So then comes the connection of Swati with the feet. We always say the Swati is connected with the feet. And then if you see the planets and all, this was, I think our video got long delayed, but when this video was supposed to be made, the planet Mars and Jupiter, you can see, were in Swati Nakshatra. I think Jupiter now is in probably.
It's in Vishaga Nakshatra now, right?
Is it about
Mars
to go
is moving
retrograde?
It's about to go retrograde.
Mars Scorpio. Yeah.
So I made during that, but never changed this. But this is what it was. It was perfect at that time. That so all the planets, when they are in Swati Nakshatra, it is lying very close to the feet of this Virgo lady. Because Chitra is at if you see the Yogatara of Chitra, that is at Virgo 30 degree. Swati also, though far from the ecliptic, they calculate that the Yogatara is around Libra 1 degree. So 30 degree and Libra 1 degree is where your Swati's Yogatara lies. So it's very near to the, very, very, very near to this region. Now this is Chitra. So this is Chitra, Virgo 30 degrees. So it is near around this. So it falls around. So this was exactly around the feet region of the, so of course it spans 13 degree, 20 minutes. So the Yogatara lies somewhere very here, but then it's still going further. This is all the Swati region of the sky. And that region exactly falls on the feet of the lady. So that's why Swati is also connected with the feet. And that's why Swati natives can have, if they have some planet like Saturn or something, then a lot of shoes and all. If especially I've seen people. I have a friend who was like he has a Rahu. I think Rahu in aspecting Swati in the 8th house, and this fellow is crazy for shoes, this high price shoes and branded shoes and all, and it's like 10-12 pairs of shoes. I don't know how he manages all that. Hey, you have only you need only 2 shoes, correct? A pair of shoes and maybe 2 or 3 pairs is more than enough. I feel headache to keep even at the shoe rack and all to maintain that. I don't know how people manage 12 and all.
I think 100 is a normal number of shoes.
Oh my God. What, 100 shoes?
Yeah, you have 10 shoes for sports, 10 shoes for casual wear, 10 more for something else.
I have 1 chappal and one shoes, formal, informal, the same. So I don't know how people manage. And then this fellow has like sports shoes and formal shoes and.
Actually, yeah, that's a great.
He got some shoes for some deal, which is like around. The shoes cost like $500-$600, and he says that I don't like also to wear it and go outside. So he just keeps it. So that's obsessiveness, Rahu is there, Rahu aspect. So that obsessiveness of shoes is there.
No, actually, yeah, people can get pretty obsessive with shoes, like when the new Jordans are out, people go crazy.
Crazy with
shoes. Like there are fights, there are fights in the US, Nike with Jordans and stuff like that, Like, I mean, you can actually watch those videos on YouTube. But actually, since you mentioned shoes, I'll just say one thing, that it's actually a great remedy to really like limit your own shoes. So kind of like you're bringing the Saturn element into your life by limiting your own shoes. So donate shoes away. That's the easiest remedy. In fact, I think Dr. Pai, maybe you could also add on how to take the shoe remedy further.
There's a Lal Kitab remedy that I heard a few years ago from a Lal Kitabi. He said if you're not using shoes, and say for example you have say 15-20 pairs of shoes, and if you're not using them for more than 6 months, it's very unlikely that you're going to wear them again. So one of the remedies he said was, on a Saturday you wear one of those shoes that you're not going to wear again. Then you walk to a Shani temple. Okay, you go inside, you pray to Shani, and when you're walking out, you walk back home bare feet. You leave your footwear there. So that was something that he mentioned, So that is a remedy that he said for shoes. If you have too many shoes and you want to get rid of them, that's the best way of doing it. Because Shani, you cannot donate old and leather shoes. Donation is not advisable. That's what they say. That's what the Lal Kitabi said. It's best to go to a Shani temple wearing the shoe, and when you come back, you just let the shoe outside and walk bare feet home.
So somewhere, please go ahead, Sandeep.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, unless you're left out of choices that you had to buy a leather item on a Saturday, right? So like maybe
I know, maybe black leather, everything is Shani.
Shani, yeah.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Aditya.
So the shoes connection, and this friend is like, and he wears these shoes, and then he's so happy that it is so costly, and people were looking at his shoes when he went to the mall and all. People calculate so many things. I think so many calculative. I was thinking these people don't have any other work to think. If I wear these shoes, so many people are thinking, they are looking at my shoes. Like even if you wear and shoes, like when I go out, I will be like in my own head, something will be going. I won't even notice what people are looking. Where are they looking? And some people.
So that's Rahu, right? It's a difference between Rahu and Ketu.
Yeah.
Right. Ketu could care less, and Rahu likes
my hair and all. Something is, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like just.
I think it's Brihat Jataka. I think so. Don't quote me on this, but I think mentions Swati as refined, like a refined member of society. Polite, having the social graces, and also being mercantile. Like having that nature of trade and business and those things. So there is that side of Swati where I can see the way you dress. Nice shoes, nice attention to that kind of detail. So yeah, Venus, if you look at just sidereal, it's like Venus Rahu.
At that point,
Yeah.
That point I can understand, but now when I wear this and go out, and then 10 people looks at my shoes and all the calculations going, observing what other people do and all, that is like, I don't know, maybe maybe normal for them. Yes, I don't know. For me, I'm surprised. I don't know. Maybe I don't belong to that.
I agree with you. I would like to possess one pair. It's like the more simple, the better. It's just like,
yeah. Even when it comes more to the clothes, I'm like fed up with the washing this, there to maintain all those. It's very difficult. I don't know how people.
Yeah, same thing. Actually donating clothes also. Not just shoes.
right.
People have, like huge wardrobe of clothes.
Correct.
Swati people will have like, three almaras of saris, just donate 2 almaras away. Easy solution. I've actually seen that, Yeah.
I mean, what do you need? You need like what, 7 days a week? So seven pairs of clothes. That's more than enough. What you do? 1-2 pairs of shoes. So anyway, where we are? Okay. So we are, of course, the wind god. We did talk about that, Vayudev, and then comes Hanuman mythology. And again, I could see the connection with Hanuman with Rahu and all. Like it was said that, of course, we know the story when Hanuman saw this sun rising, and then he said to his mother that he wants to eat that as a fruit. So he goes there and tries to grab the sun to eat him basically. And I think by that time, but that's what the story is shown in Ramayana. But that I think Hanuman's guru was also sun god, correct? Yeah, I'm thinking, Hanuman's guru was also the sun god. But then later he accepts it, and then there is a Rahu, when he's meeting with the sun god, Rahu comes there to eclipse the sun. Then Hanuman just defeats him because now he's friend with sun god. Like he came to eat the sun, but the sun was like, he understood him, and then he comforted him, and then now they were friends. And by that time they were just chatting. Rahu comes to eclipse the sun. So then Hanuman just give him a blow, and then then he's like, the Rahu is suffering some injuries and all, and then this is all looked by Indra. So Indra says that if he does this, then it will be a problem, because that will disrupt because that's what during the Samudra Manthan it was said that the Rahu will come and time to time he will eclipse the sun. So that will be a disharmony in the nature. So he was not knowing about Hanuman. Who was he? He was the Ekadash Rudra, the form of Shiva. He was not knowing that. So he just comes and hits him. And because of that, the Hanuman is like a child at that time. He just falls unconscious. And I think with that, the Vayudev is very unhappy. And then what did Vayudev does? He suspend all the prana or the Vayu connection to the earth. And because of no Vayu, many earthly beings are suffering with no air and all, and they are all dying. So then it was said that, okay, then people went and said to Indra that you need to go and apologize to Vayudev and say, because you have hit his son, that's why Vayudev is angry, and ask him to release the wind so that people can live and breathe. Then Lord Indra goes to the wind god and pleads him, and then he says, and then I think Indra is very happy, and he gave many boons. Not only Indra, but I think Hanuman got many blessings from all other gods. Like the Gada, I think Gada was given by him to Yama. Don't quote on, I think I may be wrong on this, but he gets many gifts. And at the same time, he was also, I think, cursed by a Rishi also, like he has to be remembered his power and all to use his power. So I think I'm saying Dr. Yama. Yama comes and gives him the blessing. Indra comes and gives him the blessing. Of course, the wind god is obviously there to protect him. Sun god takes him as a student. So I think he receives many gifts after that, many gifts and many blessings from all other gods. But you can see again the connection of Hanuman with the god, sun god, and also with the Rahu, because he was hitting Rahu. So I think probably there may be themes with these natives where after a severe blow or after a severe situation in life, they grow later. So for some time they may be growing, having a harsh time, but that harsh time will ultimately give them blessings, because this is, as we saw in our discussion, it's always Saturn and Rahu playing this. Saturn and Rahu will never give you anything. Of course, Saturn will never give you anything free. It will make you to work very hard and suffer, and then probably give you lots of blessings, and that blessings will be immense. So that's the connection with Hanuman mythology here.
Beautiful. Yes. Beautiful.
So, yeah, even as we said that Swati natives have to go farther from their motherland or from their home. Of course, going far from their home has got its own trouble, and its own, you have to survive at a new place, new being, and a new thing, everything new for you, and then you have to grow. Harsh times, but later you grow. So that's the theme.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Especially the fact that he got a lot of gifts.
Yeah.
I've seen that actually.
Yeah. So I think after that, the sun made him his shishya also. He taught him many subjects. And I think that was then he asked his, when it came for the Guru Dakshina time, then the sun god said that you need to go and serve my son, who was Sugriv. And that's why Hanuman had friendship with Sugriv, because Sugriv had a tough time with Bali, Oh, so now we are going a different story. But
Right.
So Swati with his guru, maybe that's also a certain connection, probably his teacher, Swati's teacher. So we have to think. I don't know, if you put Swati in the first house, probably you get what in the ninth house. It's Aquarius, correct?
No. In
Yes,
the ninth.
It's not Aquarius. It's
Yeah,
Gemini.
we can look at.
It would be
Yeah,
the
right
ninth,
on that. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has to
Definitely.
be an air sign. So yeah, I think it'd be Gemini.
But that's interesting. Gemini, also you have Ardra. Ardra is Rudra.
Right, because you have the trine of the Rahu Nakshatra,
Yeah.
according to Vimshottari Dasha, you have that trine. So you have Shanabhashaka on the 5th house cusp, then you would have naturally a Rudra on the 9th house cusp.
Rudra is
Yeah,
also
with,
Ekadesh Rudra, Hanuman.
Yes,
Right.
that's actually true. He's considered a Rudra avatar, right? Yeah, that is interesting. Yes.
Yeah, so if you put
Yeah, there's
Swati,
something.
yeah, please
Yeah.
go ahead.
Well, I have a slide on, but I was just going to say that Rahu nakshatras are kind of always interesting, just by the fact that it is a Rahu nakshatra. There are more to it than we just acknowledge. That's what I would just say. So perhaps
Now, guys, Dr. Paiji got cut off. I just wanted to say that I don't know if you saw, but he said that Shani kicked him out.
we can kind of pause the video recording and just wait for him to return. Yeah.
Okay.
Something.
Would you like to pause?
Yeah, we can just pause the recording on our end.
Have you guys been getting the recording? Has everything been
Yeah,
working?
it's all fine. Okay.
Great, because I don't know, mine got cut out too when he got cut out. Should we ask him to rejoin?
Okay, we are back. I think we lost Dr. Pai. He's having some issues with his internet. Okay, so where we were, okay, Hanumanji, Jai Hanuman Bajrang Bali. What they say? Jai Bajrang Bali, tod de dushman ki nali, correct?
Yes, destroy the enemy. Protect us from the enemy.
So, of course, now when I bought Hanumanji, it is said that Swati, like for example, Hanuman Jayanti, when we celebrate in the Chaitra month, in the April month, it comes under Swati Nakshatra. And sometimes Hanuman is also connected with the Mula Nakshatra. So people consider Swati and Mula as the Janmatara of Hanuman. Some people consider Swati, some people Hanuman. So there are some people have some two thoughts on that. Of course, now comes the favorite part of, like, I always like to dissect this first pada and padas of each nakshatra. As we know, Swati goes from 6 degree 40 minutes to 20 degrees of Libra. The entire part is in the Libra. And it's interesting as we talk Swati with connection with Vayu, and note what is the tattva of Libra. The tattva of Libra is also an Aries sign. So Swati is also connected with air. So you can see the connection of air there. Okay. So this is the first pada. This is the Rashi. It comes under Libra. So the entire Swati comes under Libra. the first pada of Libra, Swati Nakshatra is in the Sagittarius Navamsha. So the second is in the Capricorn, the third pada is in Aquarius, and the fourth pada is in Pisces. Okay, and then if you see the connection, the Lord of Libra is Venus. Of course, the Lord of Swati is Rahu, but Sagittarius is Jupiter. If you say second pada, Libra, Swati, Capricorn, Libra is Venus, Swati is Rahu, Capricorn is Saturn. Then again for third pada, Venus, Rahu, Saturn, and again Venus, Rahu, Jupiter. So you can see the connection of, so the main planets that are responsible for that is, of course, there's also some Venus connection. Rahu connection definitely we saw. Rahu and Saturn we saw. But the first pada and the fourth pada also has some connection with Jupiter. So somewhere the nakshatra of Venus is also art, knowledge, beauty. So that's all connected with the Libra sign. So these Swati natives can be connection with something like art and knowledge. We of course saw the goddess Saraswati in the beginning. Rahu again, hastiness, shortcuts, technology, very good. I have seen some good engineers in the Swati nakshatra too. And Jupiter is also knowledge. Saturn is service and all those qualities. So those are the. So if you think about Navamsha and dissect the Swati nakshatra in different Navamsha, you can take those planetary energies and say which one are. Probably second pada and third pada will be more like Rahu and Saturnian energies there probably. So if you want to go, and I think this is where the sign Venus, Rahu, Jupiter. This is the fourth pada. The Saturn is exalted, correct? And also there's an interesting connection. We saw that Pisces is Revati again there. If you see the connection in Pisces, we have Revati, and Evji mentioned that Saturn's birth nakshatra is Revati.
Yes.
So at the Pisces
Right.
Navamsha of Swati, it exalts.
Yeah, in fact, if Saturn is exalting at Swati portion of 20 degrees, right, it will fall directly in Revati too. You know, that exaltation point is specific Revati. So that itself is also saying a lot of things.
Beautiful. Yes.
So let's go to the mythology now. Some of the Greek, and we talked about it, mythology, but Greek and other myths, it's guarding the great bear or the bear god. We saw that how the Swati is connected to the great bear or some major constellation. So Swati is like guarding. So some like the Rahu, you can say that it's like guarding principle. In China, it's also called a dragon star in Chinese mythology. So dragon again connection with Rahu, you can see. So how it's nice to see the connection of Chinese themes with the dragon star. It's called the important navigational star. So you can see the connection of navigation, movement, and all those. So Bhutis, where the Swati nakshatra or the Yogatara lies in the constellation of Bhutis, it's also called as the herdsman or the plowman or the ox driver. So that I connect with ox driver or the plowman. They are not at one place, correct? They are moving again, because what does the ox driver does? Driving the ox cart. So it's traveling. So that's why it's also the Chara nakshatra. It's not fixed. It's moving nakshatra. And it is said that Swati nakshatra is good for purchasing vehicles. Again, movement, connection with movement, machines and animals. And of course, this point, it was already made. It was nice that I think Evji and Dr. Pai talked about pollen grains. So there are some pollen grains which was mentioned before too, where they move in the air. I don't know. What was the name that Evji you said? I don't remember.
Pollination. Yeah.
Yeah, that seed of that particular, I don't know.
Oh yeah, those little things. I don't know I can't remember the name. We call them something where I was born, but I can't remember now. But you think of all the animals that would be pollinating, like hummingbirds, honeybees. Also, people don't realize this, but bats pollinate.
Yeah.
There's many, so you think of all the pollinators, there must be some connection there. Yes.
I could see bat, bat when you say it hangs upside down, Venus hangs upside down, Venus
exactly.
And bats, and then it comes under Libra constellation where you have Venus. Again, power of Venus.
Bats are actually good for your garden. Bats are actually good for your garden. They'll eat the pests. They pollinate. They're actually kind of people just get scared of them because of how they look.
Yeah, Rahu, no? How they look, fierce looking.
How they look, yeah. They have a little goblin face, know.
No, they say that even Rahu, we connected with the ultraviolet, when I was talking. they also send some frequencies which are, I think, much higher frequency, which are not audible to human beings, and that
They have
comes under
sonar, yes.
the ultraviolet
Some of their ears are, yeah, they function off of high frequency
high
sound.
frequency. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was thinking they use some different forms of maybe high frequencies like low wavelength is like
Right.
maybe Ketu, Rahu, Ketu, some connection which is not seen by or not heard by or not perceived by human beings. So
Yes.
it's typical like Rahu, Ketu, you can't see, correct? So
Yes,
and
absolutely.
then you said bees. Bees are of course connection with Rahu because there are so many other reasons like why bee. Bee uses UV. The bee also has this 8-shaped diagram which they do with their wagtail. So bees are connected again with Rahu. Swati is also again a Rahu nakshatra. So somehow the pollen grains and the wind. But I'm thinking about if you have wind and fertility, can you connect some fertility issues? Swati is also Libra, correct? Libra comes under reproductive organs. Maybe so you can talk about the fertility.
Well, if you think about it, what is Libra other than the masculine side of Venus? Right. So Taurus being the feminine side. And I think Santapji has so beautifully illustrated this. I encourage all students and all people that want to learn astrology to see how you have Cancer, Leo, which is sun and moon, and then on the sides you have each planet, right? And you have masculine, feminine, masculine, feminine. It's a pattern that repeats itself, and you'll understand a lot more. But yeah, you could see Libra as, in some way, even the sun being debilitated, you think of health.
But the fact that it is opposite of Bharni,
Bharni, yeah, fertility issues, possibly, yes, those kinds of things you could. Yeah, I mean, it would need much more research before deciding on that, but definitely I could see, because you think of the Kal Purush or Nakshatra Purush. So Chitra, of course, is the fetus. Why?
Correct.
Because Vishwakarma, right, is the intelligence of form, the intelligence of shape. We think of this God with all these arms and stuff, but Vishwakarma is all pervading, because what gives a tree shape? What gives the body its shape? So this is Vishwakarma. This is Twashtar, right? So the fetus is ruled by that intelligence of form to grow. And so the next nakshatra is Swati. So it does make me think, because Swati, I believe, is they give to skin, the kidneys, I think the bladder or urinary tract. Correct me if I'm wrong, but something of that sort with the nakshatra Purush.
And when the baby is also born, they are asked to push the baby like from the womb to the out, pushing the wind, with that force.
The wind, that is a Vayu. Right. There is a Vayu in Ayurveda, one of the prana Vayus, that the downward moving force that actually pushes out. So yes, absolutely, it is the entry into the world, and then that first breath, that first independence.
I had to forget the name. It's called Apana Vayu or Apana Vayu.
I think it is Apana Vayu. I think it is. I need to refresh all of my medical astrology. It's been so many. I mean, I do it very commonly for clients, but all the little technical terms, they're actually important because they tell you a lot. There's Samana Vayu, which is the moderating force. There's these different values, and so that one is, so maybe complications during childbirth is what my guess would be, not so much fertility and reception of the seed, but that might even be more a different nakshatra, but that's a combination of things. You could not limit it, but I'm thinking maybe the smoothness or the complications that come from the contractions and the downward moving air when you're actually giving birth to a child, those kinds of complications perhaps could be, in some way, you would want to look at the condition of Swati Nakshatra.
Yeah. Interesting, because just with the pollen grains and we can see those connections.
Yes. And the purification of the blood, which is the kidneys, right? And they call the wind the purifier.
And wind is of course, that's also for Vayu god, it's called purifier, and kidneys, and because kidneys also come under Libra part, correct? Libra part of the body. So that's
and I think Swati and Nakshatra Purush for sure is kidneys. So when you think of that, and the skin is another purifying. It's the biggest organ on the body, and you're constantly purifying through your skin. So that's, and it's also the protection from the outside world in some way. It protects all the sensitive organs. It contains, you know.
Interesting. So this is called Bootes. Bootes was the basically Greek mythology son of Demeter, and Bootes is who invented plow and known for his ingenuity. So plowing, plowing, and I will also mention about because the grass which was associated plowing and the connection with some Mother Earth maybe. Icarus was also strong. Wine seems like poison, so he was killed, and Zeus recognized. So these are some of the stories: poison, wine. So I could get some themes of Rahu probably there, and then
It's
it was like
interesting here, Aditya ji, because you know Demeter. Do you know who she is?
she's Mother Earth or
Well, you could say even the seasons and some. I mean, that would be too simplistic. But she's the mother of Persephone,
okay.
who gets abducted by Hades,
Oh, okay, Hades.
Yama, right? The Greek equivalent to Yama, which that whole connection with Barney being directly, the Yogtaras being directly across from each other.
Yeah, yeah.
So this would be the brother of Persephone,
Oh, okay.
the queen of the underworld.
Oh,
She becomes the queen of the underworld. Yeah.
okay.
So it's just fascinating. All these things have so many little secrets. You have to.
Yeah, but this is I was impressed with the like he invented the plow. So inventions, new
Yes.
new technology, new invention, new tools. Because I could see the Rahu and Saturn. Saturn is again connection with some iron. So iron with that Rahu is something putting in some technology form, and also he invented plow. So that whenever Rahu Saturn is like again something, and if you have some aspect of mass and all, then it's like a blessing of engineering skills and all gets much more enhanced, I feel. So definitely something like inventions and all can also be associated with Swati, because of course when you say Swati, it's of course Rahu. Rahu is inventions and all those. So you see that connection. And it's interesting that he has got two dogs with him. And then dogs, when I see dogs, it's like Ardra and Mula, the dog symbol. And Ardra is for again a Rahu Nakshatra, and Mula is again a Ketu Nakshatra.
Yeah, this is what I was telling about, like how Rahu Nakshatras can be mysterious. You have to really consider Ketu Nakshatras when you are analyzing Rahu Nakshatras for sure. There is something going on there that needs to be really looked into. But yeah, this is a great point. That's a great observation.
Even if you say Ketu, Ashwini, opposite of Ashwini, I don't know, Bharni, exactly Bharni, or is it like some
I mean, yeah.
I think it's
Yeah,
both.
but it's both, yeah.
Yeah, it's both Ashwini and Bharni. So Ashwini is again a Ketu Nakshatra there.
Right, exactly.
So you were saying about Swift and all. I think Eve was mentioning, correct? You were mentioning about horse.
Oh yeah, Ashwini is most swift, and I don't think Rahu and Ketu are separate entities. So that's the first mistake we make, is that they're the polar ends of each other.
Right.
So it's kind of like your top and bottom half. You're not really separated, but it's the illusion that's created by the movement that they become separated. So it's an illusion that they are separated. Yeah.
Right.
So that was an interesting point. And this was something I was just found it when we were talking. There are different types of pearl, correct? We also associate pearl with Chitra, but as well as with Swati. They say that, of course, there are different types of pearl, but these are some of the pearls which I got associated. I was reading about it, which was associated with Swati. There are like fish pearls, there are like elephant pearls, there are like so many different pearls. But one is cobra pearl, bamboo pearl, and oyster pearl. Cobra pearl, they call it develops in the cobra hood of a king cobra when raindrops influenced by Swati Nakshatra falling into the mouth of the king cobra. So I think when the raindrops, so the connection with, I don't know, I'm not saying whether the cobra pearl exists or not, but I could see that king cobra connection. When I saw cobra, the snake, I got to understand the Rahu, because again Rahu is connected with snakes.
This is the alchemical side of Ayurveda.
Oh, okay.
What you've got here, this is, I've read all of this in the original. So a lot of these kind of strange kinds of pearls and these strange kinds of gemstones that we don't really understand, and the tinctures that you would make out of them for medicinal purposes.
Nowadays they are all artificial made. I'm not talking about artificials.
You can't.
The pearls and all.
Whatever they were talking about with this cobra pearl, like Sarp Makut. Mukta. So that is, or Sarpa money.
Yeah, and this is also called as bamboo pearl, known as bunch mukta. And it is said that it's a greenish tint color, and surprisingly elliptical in form of like a berry. It's birth in bamboo. When I thought about bamboo is like a shoot, you know. Bamboo is like a grass. It's a grass basically. And what the symbol of Swati Nakshatra is like a grass swaying in the wind. So I could see the connection of grass, bamboo, and the Swati Nakshatra. So that's a bamboo pearl. And then that's why I think oyster pearl is another form of this pearl, is formed from the body of pearl oysters from alternating layers of aragonite and an organic compound called conchiolin. This is also produced by the first raindrop of Swati Nakshatra. So that's why when Dr. Pai was saying about snail, so that's why I asked the question of whether it's connection with oysters or what. Because oyster also got a shell and all those. So
That's
maybe
so interesting.
yeah,
Because if you think of what creates a pearl, it is that the currents.
Correct.
Once again, wind movement, they move in like a particle that agitates
correct.
it agitates.
Exactly.
It's kind of like a pollination in a way, but it's an agitating process.
True.
Yeah, so Swati does have that. There's old books that will say Swati is quick to temper as well. Like there is a natural agitation, and there even can be a little bit of a dominating nature if the person's not in touch with the philosophical side of Swati. If they're just in touch with the force of it,
Correct.
then I've heard people define Swati as being very intense, and you do occasionally meet those natives that are focused more on that side. Like Bhima, think of what a force he would have been to be around.
Correct.
He's dominating. There's a dominance to it. Even Hanumanji is like you're in the presence of some glory, a person that has a strength. So that is interesting about the agitation part, like something coming out of agitation, coming out of irritation.
And I think these pearls are very good. They are called the real pearls, but it has to form naturally on this nakshatra and all. But now see, the pearls which we get all artificially cultured, we don't know how it is made.
No, and then the ones that are real, they have farms.
Yeah.
And they actually, once again, they're hurting the oysters. So my question to everyone would be, is it a true remedy?
Exactly.
If you have to be violent, if you have to be violent, that means you're greedy.
Yep.
And if you're greedy, can it be a true remedy? If that's true, right? So then there must be like moonstone. But even, that stuff we have to be, because you're harvesting all this from the earth and we've got such a big population. You think about the logistics of that.
Yeah, it has to be naturally formed, but who knows what it is nowadays? And then we have remedies. I don't know where we are going with all those.
Yeah, I don't either. Yeah, I know it definitely has a place, and I don't dismiss it, but it is being abused.
Yeah. So this is a site where you can go and learn about all different types of pearl, which I never knew. There's like fish pearl and elephant pearl, and so many different types of pearl. But I knew the cobra pearl and oyster pearl, definitely that was in Swati Nakshatra day. And then there are scriptures and all written, like what time that it has to fall, and Swati Nakshatra and the first raindrop and all those. I read long time back. It is in some Purana or some text which was there. But I think people who wants, they can go and then read about different types of pearl, which is interesting topic. But I just selected which was for Swati Nakshatra. So that's why Dr. Pai interestingly mentioned about snail. So that was like, oysters here. Okay, finally coming to favorite festivals. Festivals means eating. Probably after talking, I'm also feeling hungry now. My same old routine. So if you talk about festivals which is celebrated when the sun transits Swati Nakshatra, the sun transits Swati Nakshatra every year between 23rd October to 6th November. Every year. So sun between 23rd October, 6th November, the sun is transiting Swati, and the festival which we celebrate during that time is sometimes Diwali. Sometimes we also celebrate Vijayadashmi Dasara, but most of the time it's Diwali time. And what is Diwali? We are lighting lamps. And when you say in Diwali, what does lighting lamp mean? Because the sun is debilitated. The sun, the original source of power, the original source of light is debilitated. So we put a diya, maybe that's like, like a mini suns all together. And Diwali is the only festival which we celebrate on a dark moon, on a new moon day. So it's a winning of good over bad, destroying the ignorance, darkness. Ignorance means illuminating oneself by light, one by knowledge. Knowledge, again, Lord Goddess Saraswati comes in the picture. So that's why the Deepavali festival exactly comes when the point when the sun is, because 10-degree Libra sun debilitates and 20-degree Libra in Swati Saturn exalts. So you can see the father and son both having some special connection at Swati. So I think with that, this may be my last slide about talking about some nakshatras of Swati. And the theme is the self-going star. So because it's like one prominent star, and the power, as Dr. Pai mentioned, is Pradvamsha Shakti, scatter like the wind. Desire is freedom to move in all worlds. Basis above, basis below. What we learn is moving in various directions and change of form. And of course, what we are doing with movement or transformation. And that is now this Taitya Brahmana translation by Ernst William, where he says the strange things of wind are spreading from above and the non-accomplishment from below. So you can see that again, this needs to be more like he's doing this with the translation work of Taittiriya Brahmana. But that's what I think when we were talking at Sedona, he mentioned about this. So again, but the point to connect is basically the wind connection. That's what I want to bring. So it's like Pradvamsha Shakti. So as Evji mentioned, if you give some donation charity in Swati Nakshatra, probably your name and fame spread as per that. So do use those powers basically to for your betterment and all. That's it. So
it's interesting, Adityaji, some of this you're sharing, I'm just thinking of, even we brought up medical astrology before, I was just thinking of the tree associated with Swati, which is the Arjuna tree. And as an Ayurveda, it's very medicinal, heart tonic that comes from that tree, which treats palpitations, and when your heart's out of rhythm, when your heart's not beating properly, if there's some problem with that, this Arjuna tree can treat that. The other thing it does is it, if you're retaining water, or if you're, you see how this emphasis on scattering is here, like when things are out and not focused. The Arjuna tree, which is the tree of Swati, actually treats that various ways in the body, whether it's the water systems in the body not working properly and being imbalanced, whether it's the heartbeat being irregular, whether it's the skin having rashes. It actually treats rashes and things, because you think if that's random, it's scattered. It usually, when you have rashes, they just pop up all over the body, and it's showing you that something's imbalanced. So I think a lot of this, when you see moving in various directions, scattering, all of this, it has so many meanings to it. That it also in some way communicates the remedy, which is that fluidity, and also at the same time maintaining focus.
Absolutely.
In some way, right?
Absolutely.
Maintaining a balance where you can stay in rhythm, where you can stay like a breath. If you sit there and breathe really fast all the time, and then you breathe really slow, you're going to make yourself lightheaded. You won't be able to accomplish anything. But if your breath is rhythmical, like you learn in Kriya Yoga, or you learn in these pranayama, all these things that are meant to utilize the breath.
Good point, EJ, saying maybe Swati natives should do pranayamas and all for their good health and all.
Yes, just to adjust that rhythm so that things aren't so scattered, right? So that things aren't so unfocused or unrealized. Trying to do too many things at once, trying to pollinate too many fields, those kinds of things. Yeah, because that's bad for the health in some way. It's not that you can't do more than 2 things at once. Of course you can. That's silly to say you can't. But it's more about refining it, Yeah.
So maybe some breathing exercises and all one should, maybe Swati natives should be engaged in.
Yeah.
That may help them to recover from different illness or maybe good health conditions, and maybe they can have better health. Okay, with that, I think probably we need to, I think I have talked a lot. Maybe I should give a chance to probably Sandeep.
Let me just say about that pranayam thing. It's actually a great remedy, as you mentioned, pranayam. Even to simply tell these natives, like, hey, guess what? You can actually catch a breath. Take a second to actually catch your breath. Take 5 seconds off to really just catch a breath. That itself is like really calming to them, because they tend to forget that. They just scattered away too much to the point where they are really like they don't even realize they can actually take time to breathe. So it's kind of necessary for them to really realize the importance of breath. And the way how you breathe actually determines how you feel, how you function also. If you learn to do that, right? If you are learning to simply breathe into your stomach, it's as simple as that. Just learn to breathe into your belly. your diaphragm, and it's really changed the way you function. A lot of stresses can be reduced there. And that's a big thing, I would say, and there are, as Yuji
So you
mentioned, there
say
are all
belly
these.
is like which? No, we have to also see.
Yeah, exactly, seventh house, right? Exactly, seventh house, right? So belly is seventh house. So yeah, but
Bhastrika pranayama and all will be good.
but yeah, definitely, lot of that's the point. Pranayam can be different. I think we talked about this briefly before. All kinds of pranayamas out there, and Swati natives should actually be looking into pranayams, for their own health. Even take 2 minutes off for breathe when you are, no matter how busy you are, take just 2 minutes off to just breathe. It's as simple as that. Yeah, go ahead, Yuji.
Santipji, would you recommend, like for Swati natives, would you say perhaps not the overstimulating, over-aggravating forms of breath?
Well, I would say, well, depends upon the planet, right? So if they have like slower planet, needs something heavy good to go on. If they have a lighter planet, then they might actually be more helpful with a slower, like a slower, long drawn kind of pranayam. Maybe like, but see even the interesting thing is that even all kinds of pranayam, there's also a lot of variations with pranayam also. Like it's a complete science by itself, right? So even if you simply do the humming pranayam and then you do the bus pranayam, that's supposed to be helpful. If you simply do the alternating nostril pranayam, before sleep, just do that for fun. It's as simple as that. And if Swati natives learn to really channel their breath, there is nothing they just cannot accomplish. That's a big thing.
Absolutely.
And these were uniquely positioned. See, so I'll slowly begin to dive into my topics. So like if you observe TV channels that are actually selling shopping, they are always breathless. They're always, you have to buy this right now. You have to buy this. Or the discount will go away. Like so far. Exactly. So that's the whole point of like selling.
Your nerves almost to even listen.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's like literally like Swati functioning. You can see how you are increasing your business by like literally taking a breath away. So you can imagine if you are actually, and see like Swati is the, you can actually take the breath away through TV channels and, entice the customers to buy products of your TV channel for sure. But then, same thing also literally translates to relationships. So like, okay, this guy took my breath, this girl took my breath away, right? Stuff like that. So you can see how that's also transforming into the natural seventh house of the zodiac, which is relationship. Yeah. So, and see, like simply counting with the breath, it's as simple as that. How much, like we are all breathing. Are we breathing really? Are we aware that we are breathing? We had two nostrils, really? So like that kind of thing, that's a big thing, which Swati natives really need to be aware about. So that's one point I want to realize. Yuji, you also mentioned something about medical astrology. It's like if you had shared that or not.
Yes, no, I was just basically saying that the systems of the purification of the blood, that's all Swati. So the kidneys, the urinary tract, and even the skin, which sweat, we're always purifying. And the skin breathes. Have you heard that term?
Skin breathes, yeah, absolutely.
Let your skin breathe, and so I think we could do a whole video just on the medical aspect of astrology, so I don't want to get into it.
Okay.
But the Arjuna tree is extremely medicinal for Swati natives because it restores their rhythm.
I think we're definitely going to make a Bollywood movie of Swati.
Yeah, this is already a Hollywood movie now. Bollywood movie will already. We should honor Shani Maharaj, right? He made a great film. But yeah. Okay, great, Yuji. So definitely like one of the other things I can definitely say about the Swati, so the connection with viral videos, anything virus related. Swati can straight up say that. Viral videos, viral songs, people who became viral.
Maybe who are like who are published, who are putting their music and all want to make their
exactly, definitely.
Viral. Maybe release
use of Swati.
Nakshatra Day.
Right, definitely for sure. A lot of marketing campaigns for sure, great stuff like that. Also, like since we connected with the feed before, we can also say like Swati Nakshatra natives level, and in fact they might be required to travel, in fact, just like what Dr. Pai was saying. So that's also one more practical thing, like in terms of like actually go out and travel, go out and walk, That might actually help you calm your nerves. Actually, this is one of the bigger other things. Like Swati natives, one of the biggest remedies for Swati natives is to actually walk. I can't emphasize that enough. Have a walking routine. You are not only activating and improving your Saturn, you are actually calming your breath down, you're connecting with your body by having a simple daily walking route. There's nothing more efficient than, and I've seen, I actually personally know a native who has more in Swat. This lady went through heavy traumatic, situation, but just because she was involved with the walking routine, she had reached a high position and in a Rotary club in the city. It's kind of interesting, Rotary, right? Which Dr.
Yeah.
Pai was mentioning.
Sounds.
So,
Oh, yeah.
right. And this lady, whenever she talks, she just cannot shut her mouth. So I just leave. So it's like you can see that play out. Like these literally they leave their breath. They lose their breath. They're always talking all the time. They cannot get hold of their breath. So that's one really useful thing. Other thing is that
what about that movie? Who was that? That fast Harrier and some music. You remember? Breathless. It was called Breathless. Correct? You remember?
Yeah, there was a music video, right? Yeah, Shankar Mahadev and
Shankar Mahadev. Yeah.
Exactly. Maybe he might have strong Swati. I mentioned travel, and Vayu in this day and age also tries to as air. So air flight, airplane travel, flying, stuff like that. All that you'll see plenty of air hostesses, plenty of pilots, plenty of people who travel for their jobs, people who actually love traveling, the whole business deal, traveling and business meeting, all that kind of thing. And one other thing I also say is also that these are the modern day digital nomads. These are the natives who want to travel and work. That's the best form. It's a actual whole movement called digital nomads. They just work with their, Mac or wherever in the world. These are the natives who naturally go to Bali and work there. Naturally go to like places like middle of the mountains in Canada and then work there and stuff like that.
What places you will associate with Swati, Sandeep?
So, definitely airplanes for sure. Also, like airports, stuff like that.
Which places, geographical places, like you said in Burni, Egypt, and all you were saying about Swati.
Yeah, Swati.
The old books say civilizations in big cities.
Yeah.
They'll say that, which makes sense because all the trade and economic growth and all those things. But Santipji, I'm curious because you always have unique.
Yeah, well, geographically, I haven't found out Swati yet, but one thing I can say is that Swati is definitely there is a law aspect, some kind of historical aspect, some kind of ancient thing coming up, So there is this ancient quality to Swati as well, not just the modern Rahu kind of theme. There's some kind of ancient quality of time, some that has been the soil perhaps, some kind of fossilized thing actually coming. Because of Saturn being exalted there is some kind of association with there. But Swati so far, unfortunately, I haven't, not geographically, I could figure it out. But, but one thing I would definitely say one place is like probably the Venusian place, because Venus is actually having its Mulatrikon in Swati. So all the southeast direction, what you would say, like places where people fly out to normally, like Florida for the sunshine, like you could say Bali for the sunshine again, all that kind of southeast place direction in a particular landmass, you could say probably like, I wouldn't say Italy, but, probably the Southeast Asia, probably, Turkey or something like that, I don't know, maybe something like that. But good chance for people actually fly off. Maybe I would say Vegas to a point. Even Vegas might be a place where there's a lot of, show business, things like that, a lot of places where there's a lot of show business that, So those are the cities I would say with Swati in general. The other thing with Swati is also, it's interesting that Saturn is exalted here. And one thing I've seen in the tech world, how people manifest this is that these natives definitely are involved in digital entrepreneurship. These are the modern day entrepreneurs for sure, as EG mentioned before. Natural businessmen, naturally good at negotiating, things like that. But I also see a lot of people who are involved in the open source community. They are actually coding things up for the public, that kind of a thing is also going on. So Swati also has this open, so let's make it public kind of thing happening. But one other thing also with Swati is that I also want to emphasize the need for humility. That's the biggest lesson for the Swati here. I have to doubly emphasize that, because these natives can kind of get caught up in their own ego in a big way. They're like, okay, I started something new, I did something this. But that is the biggest trap for these natives. I cannot emphasize that enough. Like, sun is getting rotated here, so you can say these natives have a much more bigger trap of getting caught up in their much more quicker fashion. That's a big
Mandeep,
deal
when you're
here.
talking, I feel that you're also breathless. Probably you also have something in Swati, I feel.
Exactly, right?
He's going on.
Yeah, exactly. I know this because I have a planet there. So clearly I know that, that's why.
I was like, you're talking. I said, yeah, that's some planet should be there for you.
Definitely. But see, the bigger thing here is that a couple of interesting points which I mentioned with Swati. And Swati has been a favorite nakshatra for me. It opened up so much secrets for me. I was so much stunned. It was probably the first nakshatra which actually opened up this idea of opposite nakshatra theme. Like, in fact, Hanuman's story, right? Hanuman was actually caught between two brothers, Sugriva and Bali. And, so think about the brothers in the zodiac. You have Ashwin Kumaras, right? So the two immortal brothers. And then Hanuman gets caught up again with Ram and Lakshman, again immortal brothers. So that triggered me this whole thing of like, okay, what is this opposite nakshatra thing happening? Definitely there is a connection there. And then the other interesting connection, which I was briefly talking earlier, was like how consider Saraswati as being connected with Swati. You can think about how the fourth house from Saraswati or Swati means seat of Swati or Saraswati. So you can think of fourth house from Saraswati, which is Shravana Nakshatra. And we think about Shravana Nakshatra.
I was just thinking that was Swati and Shravan both, like location, bookstores, higher educational institutions, places that people go to learn, because Swati is so philosophical and it's very complementary to Shravan.
Right, exactly. So there is
Right.
Yeah. So there is some degree of complementarity happening with the first house and fourth house nakshatras for sure. That is one big thing I want to say. Not just the opposite nakshatras. And one thing that's so much obvious with Swati nakshatra is that the trinal nakshatra is really connected. The nakshatras are the same planetary lordships, which is like, Satabhisha nakshatra and Ardha nakshatra. Those are definitely connected with Swati. Those are some easy ways to really harmonize these Swatis as well. While harmonizing the Swati energies through opposite nakshatra makes sense, like Ashwin Kumar harmonizing could be start out healing, and you have Swati naturally associated with healing. Hanuman brought out the herbs from the, to save Lakan's life, right? So you have that going on. But now harmonizing energies of Swati through fourth house ways of activating Shravana, especially from Swati, or even through the fifth house and ninth house ways of activating Ardra through the ninth house activation, or fifth house through the Satabhisha. So like usually you find Swati natives being very creative, right? So when you put them in front of an audience, they are very, very comfortable dealing with the large number of healers gathered, large number of people who are gathered in Satabhisha Nakshatra. So you have that kind of thing playing out with Swati. And one suggestion I had, because it's always been a special nakshatra for me, that's the best I can say, because it's dealing so much things like this, and definitely this is the first principle I would say, but you can extend this principle to multiple nakshatras and it will reveal things about that particular nakshatra itself, Now, there are a couple of things which actually Yuji mentioned, which was that of, and obviously the symbol of Swati is the sword. Right now, here is a beautiful thing, and Yuji also mentioned how longevity is connected with the breath. Literally, there are some yogic schools that say that you are born with a number of breaths. So the more you're breathing, you're losing your life, right? But then there are other yogic schools who kind of question that you can't say that, all that thing is going on.
That you have a set number of breaths.
Exactly. So like. Right. So, and definitely you can associate a lot of breathing patterns with different kinds of strengths, different kinds of, illnesses. You can heal different kinds of illnesses with your breath, things like that. Even martial arts is also connected with breaths. The higher forms of martial arts, there is this kind of yogic integration happening where your breath is literally how you're punching, literally you could say that. Now, what is actually interesting, some information which I came across recently, is the symbol of Swati is actually a sword, and we have the Vayu Devata being associated with Swati. Now, Vayu Devata is the air currents that are actually passing, right? And you have the sword. So martial artists with a sword. Martial artists actually train with a sword, a put form. Now, what actually happens is that when a martial artist is training with a particular sword, with a particular form, you are changing the air currents around you. You know, there is some special kind of spiritual currents that are being drawn through that particular form. And
We
that is
can
kind of
generate
changing.
electricity through air.
Yeah, we can generate electricity, but there is also not just color and extend it to any martial arts form. You know, I'm telling the literally the what do you say? What is actually the
Because in Kerala they do, correct? They do martial art by some sword and all the coloring. I don't know.
Yeah, that is a matter for sure. But you also find swords Chinese martial arts. You also find that in Japanese martial arts. You know, but then there is something uniquely different about why there is a sword style that has been passed down through generation. Why many families would literally keep it as a secret, because you can actually activate spiritual currents by doing forms, and the literally like you are changing your breath. You do some breaths, you add in some mantras at specific points. Now you have a spiritual current being formed. It's like a spiritual vayu is being formed, and that is literally you can activate those energies through the particular sword movements, or particular form, or kata as they call it, right? So that's the biggest thing which I found was really fascinating about swords. And what was the other interesting thing about swords again was that so samurais, right? Samurai are the natural warriors who are commonly associated. So I went on to look if is there any kind of samurai connection with Swati. And interestingly, there is an entire period in Japan's history when when there was peace. When there was peace, the Shogun was established. It was peace. There was no warring factions here and there. So the samurai were kind of forced to really reinvent themselves. And there was a huge period where the samurai had to go through a crisis where they were trying to find themselves. Now, what was really interesting about that period was that the samurai some of them actually reinvented themselves by becoming umbrella makers. And you see that Swati Rahu connection, theme of Rahu and umbrella being formed out. And you actually see this, there are some old samurai where you can find that samurai struggling to become, a former glorious warrior is becoming like this, this umbrella maker, and this is very weak right now.
Umbrella,
but then, great, yeah, exactly, right. So it's very interesting, and also, but biggest thing was that many of them actually became what is known as Ronin, or wandering or masterless samurai. And there is no doubt that you can associate masterless samurai or Ronin literally with Yati. So you could say that exactly exactly
independence.
Exactly. Yeah. You have the exact same thing going on, because Hanuman said that Hanuman didn't was literally wandering until he met Sridhar. Suddenly he had a master. The samurais didn't have a master and they were wandering. But then the moment they find a master, like the word Ronin is going away. Yeah, go ahead, Yuji. You're going to say something.
I was just thinking Ram was the avatar connected to the sun.
Right, exactly.
There's that link again. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and you find
meditation differently. It's very
exactly.
Very
exactly.
We've got to drop this hierarchy business of up and down and this high and low. Maybe it's more like a circle. A circle is connected continuously. It's got to flow. So maybe debilitation, this whole thing with good and bad, it's all garbage, I think.
Right. Definitely. Now, so that's the big thing, So these natives with Swati, they should literally watch out for becoming Ronins, modern day Ronins, where they're literally wandering without any master. They're not wandering samurai, literally, they just might wander away and, they're still wandering, To find a master, they need to master themselves. That is the biggest master of them all, So that's a big theme with Swati. And one last thing before I just show the Pai Padhati chart is that for me, the idea that longevity is associated with Saturn, and longevity is Saturn is being exalted in Swati, is kind of actually showing to this idea that Swati is also holding the key to real longevity too. And for me, personally, what I feel is that, and because Sun is being debilitated here, and you can connect the opposite Nakshatra Swati and Ashwini, Sun is the key to literally your own longevity, your own life's longevity. There is so much of energy that is through the Sun. Not just Sun is not only giving you the rejuvenating energy, Sun is also giving you the destructive energy. Because you find Ashwini Kumars are the sons of Surya, so is also Yama, the god of death. So so there are certain times of the day when you begin to connect with the Sun, literally extend your own lifespan. So the times of the day are pretty obvious: the sunrise and sunset, right? When Sun is actually a bright orange ball, that's the best time when you begin to look into the Sun, when it's very light on your eyes and it's actually rejuvenating your own. In fact, what was much more surprising was that when you dig into esoteric stuff, right, you actually find solar schools of mysticism that actually claims that you can even achieve immortality through the Sun, which was a big thing. And what is
the Ashwins.
Exactly, Ashwins, right? Ashwins.
They're the miracle. That is that. They are that.
And again, they're opposite to Swati.
This is very interesting here, though, Santekji, because in the Rig Veda, you have Saraswati and the Ashwins bringing the nectar of immortality to the earth.
Exactly. So that's right. Exactly.
And the other thing I'm thinking is in a lot of the old books too, with Ayurveda, like they say that there's certain times of the day that the Sun drinks you.
Exactly.
Takes your moisture. In other words, takes your life, as opposed to giving you. There's certain times.
I'm drinking now water, you see.
The evaporation of liquids, he drinks it, turns it as the rains, but there's times of the day when that's more severe. And that's that destructive element that you're talking about.
Right. So, what is really interesting about astrology now is that if you think about Sun as being the source of immortality, you can kind of think of it as being the thing that seems to be immortal in this life, in the life, the kingdom, stuff like that, compared to our own lifespan. Now, if you one great way to yourself and to extend your own lifespan, or even for a Swati natives, is to simply wake up at sunrise and look into the Sun. It's as simple as that, But now you can see how doing that simple action of waking up to the sunrise could actually require a lot of discipline. Now you can see how that Saturn's exaltation and Sun exaltation is kind of going together. How that Saturn's exaltation is kind of helping you with that Sun's debilitation. And in fact, when you are actually taking up the Sun a lot more, you kind of the biggest form of immortality they call as the light body, right? Now, there are a lot of new age versions of light body out there, that term is kind of like, what you say, diffused, you could say. But if you are immortal, according to some solar traditions, right, what actually happens is that your own physical body kind of disappears, or the light completely you become like a complete function of light. Now, for me, it is like the completion of Ashwin Kumars happening in Swati Nakshatra. It's the light of the immortality is bringing, kind of like scattering away the physical body for you to the point where your left body that is, literally dispersed away or scattered away into that immortal function, So that's one thing which I actually mentioned in the Grahas course, but this is something I wanted to bring out.
It's interesting. If you put the house of Sun, that is Leo, in the first house, you get Swati in the third house,
right?
And which is 8th from the 8th.
Exactly.
Death of death. So somewhere third house, I feel, is like immortality,
Or longevity, because when you think of the 8th house, most people say it's death, but actually it's associated with longevity.
Yes. And another third house is basically a higher version of it, Bhavart Bhavam principle.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, the third from, exactly.
So what I'm showing here is the old mind map which I made for Swati Nakshatra, very old. You can see what I just want to highlight here is the fact that you have the 4 padas of Ashwin or Swati here. You have the first pada of Swati, actually you find Venus is having its Mulatrikon portion here. So you can find how Venus is casting an invisible influence here. So Swati Nakshatra is very interesting in the sense that there are 3 planets. Well, you could say there are influences of 4 planets happening. So that by itself is making Swati Nakshatra very special. You can see how Venus is having Mulatrikon in Swati, which is really, bringing out these houses influence. Venus is getting 12th house debilitations, 6th house it's getting exalted. First house is its Mulatrikon. Venus is the first house and 8th lord. Now, if you simply think about why are natives buying money shoes, right? Venus is getting debilitated in 12th house. So they feel like the sense of self-worth can only be satisfied through, purchasing more beautiful shoes, Now, Sun is actually also getting debilitated in, the first part of Swati as well. So you have Sun having its Mulatrikon in 11th house, Sun exalted in 7th house from Swati, and first house is where Sun is getting debilitated, and Sun is the 11th lord. So one thing I've seen with Swati is that 11th house kind of themes helps these Swati natives out. 11th house in themes of associations, network circle, an elder brother-like figure of friends, that just helps these Swati natives out in a big manner. And you can see how that's playing out.
Because if you put Swati in the first house, the Purva Falguni Nakshatra comes in the 11th house.
Right.
Purva Falguni is friends, friends and all those things. So
yeah, the 11th house.
Yeah,
definitely that. Now, also, you can see how Saturn is getting exalted in last part of Swati. And, here you could say how Saturn is having its Mulatrikon in 5th house, exalted in 1st house, 7th house is debilitated. So perhaps these Swati natives might take a long time to settle down in relationships. That is possible because Saturn is getting debilitated in 7th house. But you find that the moment when 5th house is activated, you can say 5th house can be children. 5th house can be some kind of creativity happening, right? Some kind of music or some kind of something creating. Maybe that could actually help in improving many things, like for Swati natives. That is potentially possible because it's having its Mulatrikon. But really see some themes, how there is this pull towards wandering. And you have Rahu's themes playing out here, which is Rahu being 8th house, exaltation, 10th house. Well, Rahu's exaltation, debilitation is kind of controversial, you could say. But no matter what, if you make Swati as the ascendant here, Rahu is getting debilitated in 2nd house. And Rahu is getting exalted in 8th house from here. And Rahu's having his Mulatrikon in 10th house. You can see how these natives are always trying for something different in terms of their own achievements. There is this rebel kind of career which they want to do, this nomad kind of career, traveling kind of career. You can see how Swati, Rahu being debilitated in 2nd house, immediately you can see why these natives might talk a lot, right? They might talk fast. They might literally lose their breath. You have Rahu's effect literally happening in their face, right? So that's a way of looking at it. And Rahu being exalted in 8th house. So these natives love to have the unpredictability in life. They love to just move around, And then you can combine all these and get more ideas as well, But that's something I just want to say about Swati. There's a lot more you can do, but you can clearly see how Swati is clearly one of my favorite nakshatras after this, right? So you have a lot of planets influence here, a lot more things happening. I know, obviously, as Evji mentioned, multitasking, well, if you take it to an extent, it can literally turn your energy away in too many directions. You really do need to, have some control over the projects which you're dealing with. And many times with Swati natives, that's why I do feel that having a mentor or someone to check in with is really helpful, because these are the natives who will begin one project, and then they'll, week 1, they'll begin one project. Week 2, they'll, start a new project. And combine those 2 projects at the same time. And then week 3, they'll be like, let me get rid of project 1 and project 2 and let me create a new project, And a mentor coming in, and these will be like, okay, mentor, I'm working on project 1 this week, and mentor will be like, week 2, they're like, I want to start in this new project 2 in the week 2. Mentor will be like, no, finish off your project 1 and then do it, And then week 3, I want to scrap project 1 and project 2 and start off with project 3. And then mentor will be like, no, finish off with project 1. So you can see how having a mentor, having some kind of figure to check in with is actually helpful, because a mentor can obviously see the simple mistakes which these Swati natives are doing, Now, and to finally conclude it, one full thing which what I want to say is that, so easiest remedy for Swati natives is to simply plant a sapling. It's as simple as that. Take care of the sapling, watch that sapling grow, see how that is taking some time. You have to put in, pour the water in at the right time. You have to wait. You have to pay attention to the seasons, stuff like that. And then you allow it to grow to a point where, okay, it has become a tree, right? It has become a significant plant. In fact, you can combine this with any kind of flower-based plant, and you can put tension with the plant. And the moment when that plant bears fruits or flowers, then you can kind of think of your intention as being fully satisfied. And it will definitely get satisfied when you are taking care of the plant in a strong fashion. It's a simple remedy because these natives cannot make sense of why should I stick like a plant. Why should I be like they just want to be swayed by the wind. So same thing, and see, if you think in terms of the natural Kalpurush, they'll be like Swati natives are more prone to like swing like the wind in relations, in business relations, in business alliances. Swati natives can also be really swaying like the wind in terms of live events and live decisions too. So this is a big theme, like watch a plant grow. It's a simple remedy, but it can like change many things. But yeah, that's all I have to share. But you can go on and on for Swati, but this is what I'll say. So yeah.
One more point for Swati, which I think we didn't touch, but they say if you read some books about different civilizations and all, the Arcturus civilization, there are many things written on Arcturus civilizations, and even Edgar Cayce also mentioned about that, and it's considered to be one of the very high intelligent form of civilizations and all. And then a lot of things on the internet about Arcturus civilization and all. I'm not saying aliens exist or does not exist or whatever it is, but Arcturus civilization has given a very high ranking on their intelligence and other developed powers and all. So
yeah, actually, I have a friend who was into Arcturian healing, and the first thing I looked at in her chart was that, do you have anything in Swati? And actually, she had. So yeah, there is this Arcturian healing thing you can find online. Maybe it might help you. Who knows? But yeah, definitely makes sense. But yeah, these natives are simply plain geniuses. Just that they need some structure in their life. So that's what I would say. But yeah.
Do you find they get very irritated when their flow is interrupted?
Yeah, big time.
They can, yeah. They can. That's where I think some of the aggravation and the quick temper can come from, is that they're so fiercely independent that when someone else is in their space and not doing something in the opposite rhythm or an opposite flow, they can get flustered by it. So it can be mistaken for a temper. It's really not. It's something about that train of thought, that flow getting thrown off. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, it all makes sense with breath, Vayu, all that, with higher forms of Vayu for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's beautiful, guys. So we covered a lot of ground.
Great. We covered a Bollywood movie.
We made a Bollywood movie. I think Dr. Pai only could work half of the movie. I think then probably his role finished, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting. The master went away, right? But yeah, great. So
show.
Great. Hopefully, yeah. Thank you, everyone. Maybe.
I think we wish everyone a happy Holi. Holi is coming soon.
Yeah,
probably.
Great. Yeah, Holi is coming soon. So happy Holi. Let's bring this to an end. Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Kapil ji, for being patient with us. Thank you. Yeah.
Hopefully, you are comfortable with this.
Yeah, under Bollywood length movie. Yeah.
Okay.